Right, this is going to be another episode of Snake and Banter. And for the post-major edition, we've brought in the man that secretly the major was all about. It is James Banks, obviously. Technically, you were on camera more than anyone else, including all the players at the major. That's just the nature of your role. So in some ways, it was actually the Banks major.
Yeah, in this one, I'll even give it to you because of the podcast as well.
Oh, yeah, true.
Working overtime.
Yeah, true.
Mate, you said all about Banks. It was all about Banks' podcast as well at the same time.
No, at the end it was like, right, that's the end of the day. Enjoy this podcast with Banks. And the player's like, take it out, it never ends. When's he filming all this? Although actually, you were doing all the off days, you were filming stuff as well, right?
Yeah, I literally, this is the first major ever where I had 0 days off. Even when we had the 3-day break, there was not a day off for me because it was the rehearsal day plus 2 media days. Plus some voiceovers because we were filming some things that then didn't actually go out because they wanted to use the voice of God.
Right.
Yeah, the classic.
Love that.
I saw that reaction. Record, give your voice, give everything for it, and then they're like, actually, AI sounds better. Oh, great, thanks, guys.
The worst ever, by the way, is if you record something and they tell you they're going to play it on the broadcast, it's just never played, and you're just sat there like, what's going on? Like, where's the thing I filmed? And they're like, we'll put it out on YouTube and no one will see it. Like, cheers, thanks, mate.
This was, when Donk was just arriving on the scene, gone from Academy League to main Spirit team, and everyone was hyping him up. We had maybe an hour sit down with a translator who was in his ear translating so he could reply. And guess what? That content never saw the light of day.
Oh, they should bring that out now. It'd probably be fire to watch. I'd love to see it before he became top level. Yeah.
I asked for it, and they said, no, you can't have the files. It's ours. We own it.
Bloody hell.
And I was like, guys, I don't care. Put it on your channel. Someone edit it. Someone do this together. And they just,
Bro, how are we getting vaulted material in esports, like movies that never come out? Like, what even is this? Is it metal at all?
Yeah.
This is like, release the Banks cut. Release the Banks cut. Start the hashtag now. I need to hear the donk Banks cut. The Snyder cut. Nah, the Banks cut, man. I need to know. And like I say, if anything, right, normally I get it, right, once an interview's gone, it's gone, who cares? But if you actually did it at the beginning before Donk won all the shit, that would actually probably be straight fire. That sounds like it'd be a mega artifact.
And it was so long. It was so detailed, one of these sit-down ones. And do you know what I felt bad? Because I remember the Spirit manager, he's a pretty cool guy. He comes up to me, he's like, when's it going to go out? And I said, I'm not too sure. And he wanted to see it, they were really behind it because this would have been the first time he would have got to express himself when his English wasn't at the level it is now. And that content is just lost forever. It's a sad moment. It was obviously during a time where there was the tensions of the whole political situation. Right. But I also just think cool, hold on to it, release it now, guys, please. So maybe I'll try and give him a nudge later this year and see if it can happen.
It's all good. To be fair, I did do all those years of work on SK Gaming and none of that stuff exists on the internet anymore. And even better, I reached out to my old people at the stomping grounds, like, guys, have you still got that material? They were like, oh yeah, it's on a hard drive, it's just not connected to the internet. Like, can I have the hard drive? They're like, nah. It's like, all right, see ya, bye. Fuck my whole career, I guess. There was only nights and nights working, interviews. If people don't know, by the way, luckily I do probably have it all on disc somewhere. I could probably get it out, though. But I have, 3-hour interviews with Get Right in his prime and 1.6 Neo interviews. It's like, just disconnect that from the internet. Because back then, unfortunately, basically, we actually had our own third-party player on SK, so we didn't put it on YouTube, sadly. So there's not even a YouTube mirror or some of that stuff. But whatever. Luckily, if it's a big one like that, maybe one day I can convince I'll just put my fucking YouTube channel.
I'm glad you mentioned it because there's so much content from them SK Gaming times. We don't have our profiles anymore.
No, nothing.
All my highlight clips when I was a player was uploaded there. That is the place you would have it that I don't have anymore. Anything you had was listed on your profile, put in there, photos as well from events and stuff. Oh man, that's a memory lane.
No, if people don't know,
I didn't save it.
I always say BDS, the guy who coded that site and before that made Geek Boys and stuff, which is basically that was almost like the fucking warm up for doing this site. People won't get this, Maui. It'll actually blow people's minds, but it's true. This guy who was a visionary guy who was a programmer in esports, when Facebook came out, you're young enough to know when it came out. It didn't come out till the mid-2000s or something, or the latter part. He basically invented Facebook for gamers before Facebook existed. So every single pro, and everyone you can think of had a profile on this site, like Facebook. You could upload photos to it. You could upload little videos, of clips of you playing, etc. You could make friends with people. You could DM people. It was unbelievable, mate. But then that's another example of something where it's now it's just a memory. Did it happen? Am I actually already in a nursing home going?
One thing,
and then there was Facebook, and they're like, "All right, Granddad, let's get you to bed. Come on, fucking."
One thing, I'm disappointed. Xfire is gone, or Xfire lost. Did you? Xfire was how I kept Xfire on before Steam Friends even existed, so that all of my teammates and guys that I played Counter-Strike with would be able to recognize, oh, this guy's playing World of Warcraft right now. Okay, this guy's playing Counter-Strike right now. And it also logged your hours, and that was the only way that I knew I had 2,000 to 3,000 hours of CS Source when I was playing that back when I was a young teenager.
And that's all lost now because Steam wasn't tracking hours back then. So like all my 1.6 hours are gone forever. My WoW hours, like you said.
It looks like I think it says I have like 200 hours of CS Source, which obviously, I mean,
definitely
just because it didn't count those. Yeah.
Yes. By the way, a little piece of trivia, Maui. What you might not know, because it's sort of before your time, is, believe it or not, Fatality isn't the first like pro player in esports. It was actually a person in the West called Thresh, who was also like a Doom and a Quake player. He actually made Xfire, if you don't know. I mean, the company he worked with, but he was actually like the president of the company that made that, by the way. Just a little piece of trivia a lot of people don't know, because at the time, by the way, this is because esports wasn't cool back then, mate. He didn't make a big deal out of this. He just had all those. What he did was, as soon as he had a year or two of being a pro, he like transitioned into being a businessman, did all these huge things. And so, yeah, just one of those pieces of trivia. He also, by the way, this is not a joke, he literally is also who they named the champion in League of Legends Thresh after.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Okay.
That's actually true. I confirmed it.
That's a cool piece of trivia.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into this episode. So, as always, Banks, we always start with good things, because you know what? Okay. I've just learned, you got to know the way you're bred blood. Things at times can veer into being dark and a bit, murky. So let's just start where everything's good. It's all sunny, blue, but things are good. So what's good at the moment? What's good, Banks?
What's good? I think the touching point on this is Wonderful's improvement in and out of the game. Because people might look at the numbers right now and say, okay, he had his best major ever, like he's been on NAVI a long time. But this is his best major ever, even when he played for Spirit, for example. Okay. This is numbers of when he was at Sprout and he was having a lot of freedom, a different style of AWPer. But we spoke to him a lot during the major, and he's improved his mentality. So Ursula, she is the performance manager for NAVI. He also has his own psychologist he's working with, obviously in Ukrainian, so that he can get extra help to fix some of these stuff. And guess what? I saw him tilting less. Like Maui will tell you, in the green room, we have the cameras underneath the main thing. It's something I asked for so I can track what players are doing and see what mood is going on. And this is phenomenal, because then you can actually see, is he tilting from every death, like before, lifting the mouse up and having a little tantrum every time. He improved his mentality. His teammates seemed to think he was a joy to play around. And for everyone that was saying he's not going to be a good AWPer, he's not going to actually ever reach the potential to be a game changer, he was the game changer in even the hard games. He was the player who wasn't missing the easy shots anymore. He was even being able to clutch out some rounds, which notoriously, if you look at his history, he was always struggling with clutches. So for me, this major was a breakout for him of getting through a mental barrier that saw his improvement and his performance go to a level we have not seen since Sprout days. If people looked at his career at all, he was farming in Sprout, but people also need to realize, both in Sprout and then coming into NAVI and Spirit, he's not the same player, because they play very different systems. The AWPer is not set up to have full freedom and do whatever he wants. Blade's system with Simple, of course, it's simple. He's the GOAT. Let him do everything he wants. But Wonderful's not getting that kind of opportunity. And in Spirit, like he was saying, it was some of the worst time for Wonderful mentally, because there was a lot going on in the world. He had to go to Serbia. He didn't want to live there. It wasn't a good place for him. So people look at these numbers, and now for me to be able to see where he's at and how he's actually physically focused on this mentality, it is such a positive for me, because you can see he was actually helping his teammates at times, and we spoke about the vibes being so dead in NAVI for a long time. This, if it can continue into 2026, can put them back on not just being maybe a playoff team or actually having some deep runs going to finals again. I really see that.
Okay.
Wonderful. Really clearly elevated his game at this one. I mean, the way that he was just moving during their T-sides felt so much more like he was taking his own liberties, not just standing in the back line, making sure that he posts up on an angle, trying to protect his riflers. He was actually getting into the flow, using it a little bit more as a combat weapon instead of just kind of a tactical AWPer, like a support AWPer. It was a pleasure. It was nice to see that he was just taking the reins a little bit more. So if he can be that X factor in some of these strategies, if he can also close out as many mid-late round situations as he did, then Navi have a star, and they needed a star so badly, because I would even just cite back to the Shanghai Major where they failed to qualify for the playoffs, where we started to first see the cracks and we started to try to reckon with what is the downfall of this Navi team. To me, it was a poor CT side on most of the games that they played at that event. Because nobody was stepping up. Nobody was able to multi-frag. I mean, if it wasn't just a perfectly drawn-up round with a great starter, a good idea of what's to come in the late round, then everybody just seemed to lose their hands. So for Wonderful to supersede the system, to actually now be a huge X factor, it makes you pay attention to Navi again. And Navi this year was a team where, I don't know how I'd really characterize them. Kind of like gatekeepers almost. Like you can't really be an elite top 5 team, top 6 or 7 team if you're not beating them. But they would generally not lose too frequently to the low ranked teams. Like, for example, the Mongolz had a really hard time with Navi all year. They lost to them in a lot of pretty important games. And that's kind of what I mean. They're the gatekeepers. If you have a few flaws in your system, or your players just aren't banging everybody out every round, they were already good enough. But now it looks like they can make the leap, because we know the system's there. They obviously were able to get the better of Furia because of that, but it's also because of Wonderful really boosting them to find that situation and winning a couple of the rounds single-handedly. Like, he almost really took down Vitality single-handedly. That is probably the most impressive part about. I would, there's so many series I could cite for how he was so great at this event, but I think his best one was probably the losing effort to Vitality. That means a lot to me.
Yes, I tell you what I'll do. I usually like to work in reverse so I can remember the things you just said. Go on that one. There's one thing people miss. The reason why I actually think, even though the FaZe storyline was magical, we actually got blue balls, because Navi looked like they were the second best team in this tournament. And actually, if you saw the game they played in the Swiss, it was 13-11, 13-11, and Wonderful was the highest rated player on both teams and had a 1.43 rating. So he basically, if you believe in HLTV rating, he was better than ZywOo. So when I look at that, I'm like, bro, what that final could have actually banged. Then if you look at the playoff games against Furia, bro, he absolutely fucking was dominating them. And then you go, even the series against FaZe, put it this way, he did as well as Brokey did, and by rating would actually have done better. So the problem Wonderful has, if you rewind, is it's like James was saying. First of all, I think if you think of the expectations when he joined Navi, some people might have never seen him play in Sprout. I mean, Spirit was even a couple of years before that. I get it. Like, that's now like 3 years ago for some people. Some people maybe only started watching recently, or they didn't watch the lesser teams. So they definitely, what you're saying is correct. One of the reasons I've always thought he was overhated on Navi is, bro, this isn't how he played when he was in Spirit. In Spirit, he was the replacement for Dexter. He did whatever he wanted. On Sprout, I actually thought he was overqualified for that team. He used to just murk everyone online.
Definitely.
Yeah. So then he came to Navi, and the problem is this. One, you are literally replacing Simple. And remember, if you're a Simple fan, fucking got the card right here, fucking member number 2 or something, I'll give his brother number 1 position. If you're a Simple fan, logically you have to hate on Wonderful, because how else are you going to get Simple back in Navi? You have to sort of hope this guy gets kicked. That's why when they won the major, you were still just like, I'm not sure about this, because you hope fucking Simple comes back and they become the GOATs, don't you? So I get it, right? But the other thing, like you're saying, is he also does not get to play the same way he did before. And actually, if you look at the way he plays within Blade's system, I think even though that term system opera is like a diss to people, Blade wants a player like that. Like, Blade doesn't just mean because of the ego of Simple. When he says he actually prefers this team to the one with Simple, he means essentially like, this guy does what I tell him to do. In Simple's case, you just go, right, I accept that you're not going to do what I say because you're going to do something magical no one else can do. But in the case of Wonderful, I actually think, I always say it this way. My joke about people like Wonderful is they're not playing the fucking Quake or Say Yes where you do whatever you want. They're playing Time Crisis. Yeah, you can fire anywhere on the screen, but you're on rails. You don't choose where you go on the map. If you remember that old game, the arcade game, you just get moved by the game, don't you? And you just shoot. So in that scenario, what people don't realise is, first of all, it means you don't just get to find the easy shots and take crazy brokey peaks or whatever. But even worse, it means there will be times where essentially your job is hold this angle and you have to hit that shot. And I don't think people know the pressure. Bro, literally, you can watch it in the final of this major. There are times ZywOo goes like a fucking face it pug. Not really feeling the orb. I think I'll just switch to a rifle and play this angle differently.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen that happen, and he's fucking contender. He's probably going to win Player of the Year, by the way, guys. So I think Wonderful was overhated in that sense. Now, I will say, I do understand the criticisms. Like, for example, if you can remember that Copenhagen major they won, his problem was this. This is what fucked him. He actually was the carry until the semis and the final, and when they had the big games. So no one remembers it. And then that he wasn't as good, and it was Jail, and it was Bait, and it was the others that took over, right? So people looked and they were already like, he's not doing as well there against literally the best teams in the world. And then after that, I will admit, I do think he was a player where if you looked on the HLTV event page, it'd still say, the 1.15, the 1.2. But it's true, if you ever drilled into it, if he played a semi-final or a final, maybe his numbers would be lower. And actually, I think that ties also what BanKs is saying. This guy isn't the prototypical Eastern European, he's a machine, he's not like fucking one of these characters from an 80s movie. He's like a mega emotional guy. If you've ever seen him, he's in that donk class of guys where they're all fucking anime kids and they're all fucking, they've got a different social mentality to what you think of as people stereotypical from that part of the world. So actually he's one of those people. I actually do believe in the face cams. Or you can see he's bombed out every time they lose, mate. He even looked actually the times in these games when they were losing, it was hard. Well, I agree. I think he held himself together better. I think actually everyone in NAVI, that's one thing you got to give him credit for. They seemed like their mental was fucking crazy at this major.
Yeah, I think it's their mental for the whole team, if we're looking at that, was everyone except Bit was being able to hold themselves to a good level. Obviously, I'm seeing more by looking specifically at the camera the whole time, but it's just wonderful sometimes. I would watch him get so tilted and he's maybe frustrated with himself or he's not hitting something and, then he's still communicating, but you see it's less. He's just less emotionally into the game. He's more checked out. There was one game, I think it might have been one of the Vitality ones, Maui, and he started 1-7 or something, and then he came back and took over the map. And I'm like, okay, he's cracked it. This is actually a player we can work with for the future. This is a player who now is living up to expectations and found a way to bypass this.
And
I made the power ranking of Oppers on recency forum, and that during the major, and I put Wonderful pretty high on it. A lot of people I put Wonderful 4th, by the way, on the power ranking the remaining Oppers. I did it at the kind of near the beginning of stage 3, and this is after we saw a couple games where m0NESY wasn't online or anything. I put Wonderful above m0NESY, and that was easily where people drew the most question with it. How could you possibly say Wonderful is better than m0NESY? But I think that was proven right. I mean, the form that he had at the end of stage 3 was just simply better than m0NESY's.
By the way, I'm also so bored of that angle. Here's what's shit about fans nowadays, mate. So you just have to be wrong no matter what you say. So if you say something like the player who's shit hot right now is really hot, they go, well, what about the whole year? And then if you go, well, for the whole year he was good, they go, but what about right now? It's like, well, fucking hell. How about you pick a position, then argue it? Don't just sit there with a blank placard and a Sharpie and just go, I'm against whatever you write. Fucking hell, brilliant. Okay, I can't exist in a quantum super state where I simultaneously address today, but also yesterday, but not yesterday, only today. I'm not fucking Doctor Strange. So, but I actually think that's also an area where you actually notice even all the stats fucking chafers haven't even noticed this year. You haven't been following the stats, you idiots. Are you ready for the 4 biggest events of this year? They're called the prestige events. There's Katowice, there's the Blast Austin Major, there's Cologne, and then there's the Star Ladder Major. Get ready for this. So at Katowice, he was a 1.12 rating. They came top 4. At Cologne, he was a 1.14 rating. They came top 4. At Blast Austin, they lost to the champions in the round of 8. He was a 1.15 player. And at Starladder Budapest, they finished in top 4, and he was a 1.23 rating. If you thought he doesn't perform in the big tournaments, then that was actually a valid opinion in 2024. It is the end of 2025. Update your motherfucking firmware because you are off your game. And I've always said this as a final point about Wonderful. Even when he was somewhat questionable, I've always said this, I've never had an answer. Who were we replacing him with?
Yeah. The way I look at this as well,
I never hear a good name. You know what I mean? Because let's face it, we're not getting ZywOo and m0NESY. They're not even on the table.
You got to put them a list of AWPers, right? And the way I would do it if I'm a team, I'd say, okay, let's look down the top 20 teams, try and put another AWPer in that position and see if it'll be better. And if you can't tick that box, well, GG then. It's not working, is it? Because unless you're going to pluck out a molodoy from thin air and from nowhere, which doesn't happen often, or someone from one of these academy teams who you really believe in, which, by the way, sometimes can miss, has happened, like VP, for an example. There is all these options of like, oh, you'd have this player, but actually the stats give you the option of, no, this doesn't work out.
And then one last thing, just to trigger everyone Brazilian watching. Fala galera, guys. He's better than Molodoy. Do you not watch the majors? Oh, I do. He's better than Molodoy. Oh, no, in theory, I think Molodoy could be better one day. But you guys tell me the majors. Remember, when my boy Monacy's popping off, he's not the best player in the world because the majors are all that matters. Well, you know what? There's another person with an MO. He's called Molodoy. How's his major today? Dickhead. Shout out Richard Lewis. Small 1%. I give him 1 cent every time I say, how's today, dickhead? So, you've earned one drink now. I'll keep saying it, though. But anyway, here's why this is a good angle. Because in the past, Wonderful has been on the ugly category, or there have been times he let the team down. I agree, though. I actually think, if anything, it was more NAVI, the team, that had the problems this year. This guy was actually the most consistent part of the team. Even bit at the end of the year, the problems. JL literally is like fucking semi-retired right now, doing like Dexter posts, like, watch out for a few days. It's like, oh, I just played a show match. Like, that's why when Flames even did this joke today, where he was like, hey, JL, I got my trophy before you. I was like, well, to be fair, he did speedrun the rest of his career, though, didn't he? Listen, it's all good. I did that Feed the Trolls episode with him where I like big brothered him and then like put the arm around him. It's like, you're all right, kid. Get a fucking nuggy, whatever. Anyway, Maui. Some people would say you never make a good point. Those people are rude. Why would I even let the intrusive voices get to me and repeat their lies to you on camera? But what is your good point? What is good right now? What do you enjoy?
This is just my favorite roster move. I feel like I've been talking about how much I've disliked this player's position on the team they're on, but now, and usually the great thing about this is that players don't.
You're eating
usually,
good, okay.
They don't get benched this fast.
No, true.
It's really rare for a player.
Bro, it's like they're trying to make that meme come true. Bro, if I were him, I'd be like, look, bench me if you want, but can I at least have more than the 6 months though, please? Think about the meme. I've got to survive 6 months, for fuck's sake.
I mean,
like, why have you done me like that?
I probably target about one player on average per season.
Yeah, true.
And it has been really. I have won so frequent. I don't think I've lost for a while.
Why do you make it sound like you're like the FBI and you have like the most wanted at the top of the list? It's like, that's the main guy I'm going for. Yeah, you should just do a top 5 power ranking. Maui's most targeted player, basically. Like,
I mean, what last season was. I mean, admittedly, my last season was Rain, actually. I was going for Rain, and that actually happened. I mean, before that, what did I get? I said Kawez, which was kind of wild, and then Payne actually got rid of him.
What about Kai? Is he even big enough? It's either him or Skulls. One of the two, you know. It's one of the two.
Well, Skulls did happen. The Skulls move happened as I.
By the way, you know what I'm worried about here, Maui? I don't want to give you too much power, mate, but these people all do get benched as well. So it's like
Nafany. Nafany got benched too. By the way, he's just gone down and down ever since.
You know this. I told you the story before. The way I knew you'd actually won the war against Nafani, who remember had like motherfucking simple as his reinforcements on Twitter. You won the war where I once made a tweet and I wasn't even trolling, and I forgot that it was spelt with an F, and I wrote Nafoni. Except I didn't write Nafoni, I put Nafani with PH, and I realised I've just read it too many fucking times on your Twitter. I actually wrote that to myself, like, shit, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so to actually, if people haven't caught on by now, it's zweih. I'm glad zweih is benched on Spirit. I mean, in the beginning, I actually feel like I called it out relatively quickly, even while they were winning on one of the shows that I was on, that it just didn't look like he fit. I mean, he just made so many errors, and I feel like the people that were holding out for him, two things. One, they really overvalued what he did with Nemiga, and I think the thing is that caught a lot of people's attention is stage 2. But if you go to stage 3 at Austin, where zweih played, he was pretty bad versus everybody that was like a true tier 1 team, and that's more so where I graded him, actually, not the stage 2 beating other teams that are, you know, in the 15th range or anything like that. Like, that's not what I imagine for a guy that needs a call up for Spirit. So for him to get benched, I feel like Spirit just acted really quickly. I mean, I feel like they could have held out for a little bit longer, and I feel like no one would even really blame you all too much because of what he did to Falcons. I mean, to to Zwei's credit, he had one amazing series in his short-lived career with Spirit. And it was the one that he played versus Falcons. I can't understate how unbelievable it was to see him play on Nuke A, getting an ace, on another round, on the floor, getting a 3K. I mean, he was getting multi-frag after multi-frag, and on obviously Dust 2 to send them to overtime to get the ace as they're trying to get into his bomb site on B while he's there by himself. Like, they're losing that game if he doesn't get that ace, or at least 3 kills there, and yet he was able to accomplish that. But either way, I'm glad they didn't just say, yes, this high-pressure moment meant everything to us, and now we're going to overlook the past 4 months of you really serving, doing a pretty bad job. I don't want to mince words here. Like, he was just bad. I mean, I feel like it was him and Chopper fighting to see who can race to the bottom of the scoreboard every single game. And that's not a good place where you want to be if you're supposed to be an up-and-coming anchor star, lurker star, whatever, his roles. They talked about the fact that his roles were a little bit different, and I guess some of that is true. I just think more so it's the style that they wanted him to play, which is to be more of a supportive element to Spirit as opposed to being the star. Because on Namiga, he kind of got to just test people in 1v1s on defaults a lot. And now, just like, if you die, you kind of, you fuck around. And so you can't die here. And so he just went to too passive. And then when he was too passive, then he would just get pushed in and die. So he never found his footing. I'm not even going to say necessarily that he can't play again in tier 1 in a year's time, but he just clearly wasn't ready for Team CS at this level. And so I'm happy that Spirit pulled the plug.
Yeah, I agree with, like, this move made sense, and it's really smart from, like, looking at what Spirit want to achieve. And also, even if Chopper move didn't happen with Magix, right, this change would have happened no matter what. Zontix was coming back. I said this when we did the Shanghai major, right? He told me he had these health problems. So when he said he was coming back, as far as I'm concerned, he was going to come back onto Spirit, because the problem zweih had so many times was he'd be holding a bomb site and then Donk's coming in to rotate to help him, but he's still peeking. Where if you look at how Zontix would play, Zontix would buy some time, he would take a fight, win one duel maybe, and then get some flashes ready and let Donk then run in and do what Donk does best. He was playing that much better Team CS, where I felt like zweih was just sometimes too overextending, too many re-peaks. So I agree with you, Maui, that, like, this is a great move for Spirit. And by the way, Zontix is, like, lived and grown up in this system, a great team player, also emotionally more stable than pretty much everyone else on that team and always has been. So, like, outside of just the numbers and what's going to happen here, I think, like, Zontix, before he went and had this break for health reasons, he was probably one of the top 2, top 3 in his role by far. Like, and no one can take that away from him. And he will just get all his roles back. He's probably sat there thinking, oh, look, I get everything I wanted back. The team's actually going to be better now in some aspects. Like, it's all positive.
No, absolutely. By the way, I also agree. I did a whole video on my YouTube channel, but I totally agree with the move, but I've also got some other angles listening to you guys. So first of all, I'm not in any way putting in this part of the show. I mean, I don't actually plan to address it at all, the whole Mikasa thing. One, it was mainly a meme. Like, I get it, he's young, so he because of people memeing on him, he's thinking everyone hates him. Like, not really, mate. Like, in fact, I'll tell you right now, if you go within the next few months and you just join, like, one of those, like, tier 1.5 teams, you'll be a star player and everyone will be loving you again, and your rating will go up, and then all of a sudden all be forgiven. But the real problem with that whole topic is, like, actually, technically, if you ever read into the stuff, it's actually not as simple as people realize. Like, as far as I can tell, it is actually plausible that there was some, like, shady stuff behind the scenes there. And put it this way, all I'll say is there are many other people in esports who, if they're vaguely associated with any kind of impropriety, as you would say in a euphemism, they would get tarred with the same brush, as was pointed out on Twitter. The same thing happened to all the heroic players because of what happened with Hunden the coach. So it's not like there isn't a precedent for that. He actually, if you're looking at it, put it this way, he wasn't just doing what people thought because it was just a quote. People thought what he did was he saw another, like, rookie figure get into a big team, and he was just like, I'm just going to hate this motherfucker. I'm hate watching. And then it was like, well, now you're the one who got wrecked, lol. And it's like that. And even though we all memed, it turns out that wasn't really true. So I'm putting that to one side. That's not even the reason why I think this is a good move. Like, the problem is, as Maui says, he had real issues in the team. And unlike someone like Jacob, He's been at the team the whole season. He didn't just join at the end and then not get the real ride. No, this guy was in the squad the whole time. And we all said, by the way, when he was signed, this is a good move. I like the try because everyone saw Magic's had the thing. By the way, this is why Spirit are clever. They learned from the Magic's mistake. Magic did the life game and that earned him another season. Problem was, there's a reason they couldn't beat Vitality and he was part of the equation, unfortunately. Now, look, they also needed more fragging elsewhere, but you do what you can. So if you see what Halley said, listen, I know people in hindsight will change the story, but he claims both of those signings, Tane and zweih, were to allow them to actually do this thing where they take people out and potentially bring them back. He claimed that was a way to address the problems. So what he's basically saying there is I never necessarily signed him permanently and he was going to be in the team the whole time or whatever. Now, look, again, another meme just ruined that for you, Halley. You're the one who then put him in a dream team, bro. But then again, my joke is, my joke is though, no, he's right though. That is a dream team because only in your motherfucking dreams would he be the support player in your fucking actual team of the world where you can pick. Spoiler, Messi, you fucking lunatic. You picked, you picked Rops, by the way. You picked fucking ZywOo. Oh no, you did pick Shiro to be fair, but you did pick other people who definitely are not in Spirit right now. So if you're going to do that, Halley, you do it one way, mate. You either put only donk in or you put the whole team in, bro. You don't go... Because I don't get why, if I'm the people who the spot Rob's got, I'm just like, well, fuck me then, I guess. Shiro gets in over ZywOo, but I don't get into tips anyway. You did that to yourself, Halley. I didn't make you press send on that motherfucker, so you did that yourself. But I could believe, I don't think he's a liar outright, so I could believe there's that was part of the reason to bring him on board. And I'll also say this as well. He is 17 years old. By the way, that gives him a little bit of a break, but that's also why it's actually valid to remove him. I don't think he's developed. Maui said it best. You went straight from Namiga, a sort of stage 3 team at a major, to you're now playing the semi-finals of the next major. You have to beat fucking Vitality, mate. That's not even a diss to say you couldn't do that. You're 17 years old. You aren't donk. So sit back. As I said on Twitter, bro, I'll do the plus minus for you right here. Oh, they're all hating on me. Nobody would have tweeted about you for an Amiga, mate. No one would fucking know you. You'd have been sat watching on Twitch TV with me, except the joke is I wouldn't even bring you on my stream. You'd be a fucking nobody in Amiga. So you got to go to Spirit, win IM Cologne, win Blast Bounty, receive sticker money and a really good sticker in the game, not the stage 3 one. Then you got to go to the semi-finals of the major, and along the way, you pulled off, yes, a fucking epic series for a 17-year-old player, which is you actually are the main X factor as to why they beat Falcons. If you think about those maps, both maps, like Maui says, Nuke and Dust 2, on CT side, you actually gave Falcons fucking nightmares. The joke is, cause Nico was actually cooking on that second map, if you didn't do that performance, Donk could have clicked every button the same, and it would have been 3 maps, and who the fuck knows when you go to a third map, maybe Falcons pulls it up, maybe they don't. But the point is, you did actually, essentially, force that series to be won by Spirit. The problem is, though, because we've learned the lesson of the Magic's thing, and we have players coming back who maybe fit the qualities you don't have, yes, understandably, they were look, sorry, because I agree with Maui. You could easily have said to the fans, hey, give him more time. He just had that series against Falcons. But I actually think it was quite shrewd. I think they want to be the number 1 team. And I'll also throw this part in there as well. There's 2 angles I refuse to acknowledge by players in his team and people in general. So I've been gaslit like this already about Jacob. They go, stop hating on Jacob. He's not even playing his roles. Am I motherfucking Carrigan? Did I do that to him? So I think you're hating on the wrong guy, mate. So you're going to tell me, zweih isn't even playing his roles. Well, you know what, Donk and Halley? Get your fucking finger out your ass and put him in the right roles. Oh, wait, that's right. He's not good enough to be in his roles in your team. So you agree with me, you fucking lunatic? How dare you tell me I'm wrong as you explain through other means I am actually right. I'm just not allowed to have an opinion you don't like. Also, if you are Donk, shut the fuck up, mate. You can certainly say don't hate on him, but don't do that thing where it's he's a really good player and a gripper. Well, then you put him in your team, motherfucker. I said this to Simple about Nafani. Then you play with him, bro. By the way, Simple, how did that age, bro? Right now, you wouldn't even sign him to fucking BC game, you lunatic. You're bringing the corpse of Electronic along and fucking finger popping while trying to hop. Now you play one-handed. What are you doing, mate? So, fuck miss me with this whole shit of oh, you're hating on him. No, though, I'll tell you who's hating on zweih right now. I don't have control over zweih, by the way. I can't bring people in and out of lineups, although I do sort of do that Maui thing where I try to get fired after a few months. But whatever, that's media influence. Listen, the media's a different game. The little fucking puppet master. But you have to realise, the people who fucking did this guy over was Hallie, Team Spirit Org, and then you know what? I'm just going to say it, mate. Donk, you know when you were really mad after that Mirage game? Who are you mad at, mate? You love all your teammates. They're all the best teammates in the world. So who are you mad at? Looked like you were mad at the coach. Looked to me like you might have been mad at Choppers. Give me a fucking break. You're the one who's mad at them. I would actually speculate right now. They probably asked you your opinion. And I bet your opinion, you know what? I'll speculate right now. I predict your opinion, Donk, went like this. Get my motherfucking Zontics and Magics back in this team. I want to win some tournaments. And you know what? You didn't have to be the bad man, did you? You didn't have to be me whiling on a fucking podcast. But understand this, homie. In the server, you're the fucking king. No one can touch you. This is my CS server, bitch. Shut the fuck up. In real life, you are just a little 19-year-old. This is like when Morrissey was doing that tweet about, like, won't someone do something about Bestia? Have you even read a fucking document about how visas work in America? What, because you're sick of landing flick shots with the AWP? I'm supposed to listen to you? Mate, if you have a 1 in front of your name and there aren't 2 more digits coming afterwards, shut the fuck up telling me. I'm an adult, mate. I pay tax and everything. Like, literally, you were in school about 5 years ago. Shut the fuck up telling me how the world works. Tell me all you like about AWPing. You know what, dog? I tell you what, mate, tell me some shit in the game that I don't know that he was doing that was awesome. Because I just watched it and I was like, Magix was a better team player, and most of these tournaments you don't even do the fragging. Like, what am I missing here? Oh, he's in the wrong roles. Then put him in the right roles. You're talking to the wrong guy, mate. Pick up the phone. Halling's right there. So anyway, this was supposed to be a good... Oh, it was good. It's good that we're hitting on zweih. No, I'm in the groove. Yeah, I'm in the groove, exactly. So... Then there's one more thing that is this, which goes like this. There's one more angle, which is, I actually think that the other thing that people are missing here is, you know what I said about Wonderful? Well, who would replace him? It's not like they're picking a random player. They're bringing back a player that they've already used in their team, like BanKs explained, who actually they've already worked with and had success with. And if anything, probably wouldn't have been kicked if he didn't have these issues. So it also isn't like they said to him, you're in the team forever and we're going to be playing 10 years together. No, you had your chance. By the way, let's be real. If you hadn't performed at the Falcons game loads of tournaments, you probably would have a spot right now. Maybe Zontics would get called, sorry, mate, no room at the inn. You didn't, so you get replaced. I actually think it's totally reasonable. And also, I'll throw this out there as well. You are 17 years old. It's not like in 6 months if someone plays back. By the way, for all we know, Magix doesn't even work as IGL, and then he gets kicked out of the team. For all we know, Zontics can't play these spots and needs his own. There might even be a way back in the team for this guy. I can now say his career isn't over. He's 17 years old, for fuck's sake. Yeah, it's a rough ending, but I tell you what, it was a fucking amazing chance, though, wasn't it? I'd say the same thing to Jacob, mate. If they're hating on you, spoiler, that means you got the spotlight on you. Isn't this where you wanted to be? Isn't this your dream, to be in the big stages of the major playing? Like, at the end of the day, you just ask for the opportunity. Yeah. You can't have it all be perfect and awesome. So I agree. I also think this is a good move, and it's not even hating on him. I actually think, because I'm thinking of people like Donk and just going, mate, how does Donk win this major? Because if I'm Donk, I look at that major and I go, what was I supposed to do? What, just do a 2.0 rating or something? Like, I think I did all I could, mate. So I need the team to be fixed. Go there, boys. Someone wants to jump in. Go on. On
the whole zweih thing as well, I don't have...
They're definitely going to respond to this fucking episode. I know that, but don't worry about that. As usual, par for the course. It's all good.
I don't have 100%, like... I can't confirm it, but I'll just say that as far as I'm aware and what I'd heard is that Zontics would always come back once his health issues were done. Because there was all this stuff around, he had passport issues because obviously he's from Ukraine and he's not living in the country, blah, blah, blah. All of that is just BS. Because when I spoke to him... forum shit. He said it on the interview at Shanghai Major that he's having health problems at the moment. I spoke to him off camera. He told me what the health problems were. I'm not going to disclose that. That's his information. But it was something that needs to get sorted and treated. And it was affecting him. And by the way, for people who don't know Zontics, he is extremely smart. This guy could be very successful in other things other than playing CS. Like, he reads a hell of a lot of books. He's super up to date on things. He's super in tune with, like, and way above his age, you know? He's way more mature and he fits into that team perfectly. So my thing is that this, to me, seems like this was always the case. zweih might have not been told that, but... That's with you're a stopgap, and this is still highly beneficial for zweih's career. He lifted trophies, he had some success, and I agree with you, Duncan. This is not the end of it all for him, right? This is just, he was not ready for Spirit. It was a test run, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe later on they say, okay, Zontics can stay, Tanir needs to go. zweih, you're back in to try something else. There's anything's possible with Spirit, but they're only going for trophies because in their eyes, this year was a disappointment, even with Cologne.
Also,
you've got the best player in the world. You can't be not having like grand final appearances like that crazy, you know? And they probably know because Donk, by the way, another really smart, well-read, English is improving all the time, avoids social media. They're probably thinking, well, wait a second. If he does want to leave because we can't get a team together around him, someone will come and buy him. Yeah. Like, if that's up for grabs,
VP will get a few million out or something. Yeah, of course. Someone will do it.
I wouldn't even be surprised if it got so bad, which obviously is not the case right now for Spirit. Someone like Falcons would become there. Kiyosuke and fucking Munacy would be like, let's go, boys. Let's have him in as well. Nico to IGL.
Exactly.
Donkin.
Exactly. If you guys keep fucking around, do you want to see Nico IGL while Kiyosuke fucking Donk and Munacy play? Because if you hate Falcons, this is how you get Nico IGLing while Kiyosuke Donk and fucking... Anyway, there's one that, I tell you what, we'll lighten the mood a bit. I got a bit dark there. It's all right, you know. I had to take them into my fucking shadow realm like Mordecai's or something and fucking punish these motherfuckers for daring talk shit on the internet, because how dare they? Only I'm allowed to talk shit on the internet, as we've established. So I will make a joke though, which is, you know, when you say there that Zontix is reading loads of books, well, the problem is because I know he's another one of these fucking anime nerds. I do worry that that's like that thing where, you know, like I know some girls in esports that go, I read 100 books, and then you look at the books, it's all those like weird fucking fetish books where it's like farm animals fucking people and stuff. So I was going to make a joke, like it better be real books, mate, like, you know, like fucking Dostoevsky. It better not be actually like animals just fucking a bunch of people up. But then I realised, oh wait, it is, because he's reading the Spirit Strat book. Talk about Donk. Think about it. Think about it.
Okay.
I redeemed it at the end.
All right.
I'll give you one tidbit on that before we move on.
Go on.
He's definitely reading like psychological books. Okay. And Donk's book that was in his bag when I saw him last was Mamba Mentality, and I know you respect that. Thorin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought I had to tell you that. That for me was like, they are not just kids; they are cooking.
You know what, Donk? I might have got a little bit energetic earlier on. You know, I got my emotion got into it. You know, as long as you actually are following that Kobe shit, then I'm in. Okay, I'm back in. Dad, damn it, I'm back in. I'm back in again. I'm in again. I'm in.
One book did it all.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll also just say that it's obviously good that Spirit are benching zweih, but you can bench some of the frozen food that you get from your local grocery store with Factor, as they are sponsoring this episode of Snake and Banter. So you can eat smart at factormeals.com and be sure to use our code, which is snake50off. If you put it at the end of the URL, you can do it like that. You can use the code when you get your first box, and you can get 50% off your first box, and you get free breakfast for a whole year. Ooh. So use our code for all of that. You can obviously tailor the meal that you want on Factor. It's actually really good if you have to, or you want to follow some sort of specific macro diet. Like say you want high protein, that's what most people are after nowadays. Let's say you want something that's more keto focused, you can go for something like that. So many different options. The food is actually some of the better, it's some of the best food on the market really that you can get, in terms of stuff that you can just microwave, super easy, just stick it in your refrigerator, get the deliveries on a regular basis, and just make your life a lot easier by getting Factor. So check it out. It's delicious. Honestly, there's so many options, so many different types of meats too. Like if you want to just stick to beef, you can do that. You want to stick to chicken, you want to have more seafood, you can get all of that with Factor Meals. Go to their website, factormeals.com/snake50off for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year.
Right, now we have arrived at my good point. So it's okay, the blood pressure's going down. I'm getting zen. Because here's the thing, now I get to just glaze the people I think are wonderful in CS. I already hinted at it earlier. We did the wonderful conversation, so fuck it. Let's just do the whole NAVI topic, shall we? Because, bro, I think NAVI played fantastically in this major from beginning to end. They had the one map against Furia, where, by the way, Furia was cooking. That was when Furia was the number one team in the world in every respect. And there was no pressure, so they were just murking everyone like they did in all the other tournaments before we got to the major playoffs. Then you look, They had to directly go head-to-head with that team in the first round of the playoffs. Like, in theory, if you believe in, like, in-tournament form, that's the scariest team to face. It's even the team where you look player for player. If I'd had, like, an open forum where fans discussed on my Twitch chat, like, before that match, like, let's go player for player, they'd tell me every single player's better. They'd even say Fallen's better than Lexi now because think of all the titles he's winning and the narrative that he's back on top and his team's number one and all the T-side numbers were fucking bonkers. Bro, I actually think... Literally, if you are NAVI, you have to actually believe in this phase bullshit, mate, because nothing else beat you in this tournament. Like, if I watch this one, we already said it earlier, you actually gave Vitality the best series they played in this tournament, including when they played fucking Spirit. Like, this is nuts. Then you go and look at those playoff series. If it wasn't for that insane 1v3 of Fallen, where apparently the players just thought the round was over and he was saving, and that's why they quickly ran around the corner and they just like brain farted it. That's like, they had no business winning that round. If it wasn't for that OT Inferno game, it would have been 2-0 for real. Like, I actually think Na'Vi outplayed Furia for like 95% of the match or something. Basically, there was like one T-side of Inferno. They didn't. That was it. Aside from that, this was like a fucking masterclass. And if you go and look, I'll tell you what, I'm just as likely as anyone to be skeptical when you see those interviews and you see people like Blade. Blade always does the football manager thing. He doesn't tell you like, oh yeah, we're going to win the next tournament. He'll tell you like, we're making improvements and we're working on things and we're going to peak for the major. Yeah. Now, normally when someone tells you that, well, they don't, because they almost like flip a coin. Do they peak at the majors? Do they not? But I just believe it at this point in time. He's done it every single major. Even at the last major, they had no business being there. They were also giving Vitality a decent game. So at this point, I was already a Blade believer, but this is why. Blade, here's a statement for you. Blade is at a level where if he tells me X and I think not X, I'm going to at least give like a solid 30% chance. Maybe it is not X. No, not X, rather. I fucked that up by making like a fucking algebra equation when I'm tired. Whatever. You get the point. I'm just going to give whereas normally I'd go, well, I'll think I'm right until proven wrong. I'll actually allow for the idea. Maybe Blade just knows what you're talking about. Maybe I don't know what the fuck he's doing with his team. Because I think what they did was unbelievable when you consider their only roster move was to bring in another rookie who actually, by the way, got quite a lot of flame this season. And also, you want to talk about peaking in a system. That player never looked as good as at this major. He was fucking fantastic in the playoffs. He even does the shit where this is how you know Blade's got a crazy eye. Bro, it's not even like Makaze had like the craziest stats, but when you would see him get the kills, by the way, he essentially was the whole reason they just destroyed that train game against Fury. He was just shitting all over him outside on fucking CT side. He played way more measured than he normally does. Like, I think this was like a masterclass for the whole team. About the only player I think sort of had his issues was maybe Bit. Sometimes didn't turn up like you would hope. But you look at the rest of them. Alexi called a fantastic tournament. We already did the Wonderful section. You've never seen Wonderful as good as that. And then you know what? He's actually, considering his bloody numbers, being forgotten. Immer, who everyone 1.5 years ago was like, look, simple, if you don't want to replace Wonderful, you could just rifle and replace Immer. Bro, Immer actually fucking cooked this major. He was really good. He was even reliable as fuck. It wasn't just like, just on Mirage CT. No, he was good across the maps. So I think you look at them as a team, like, who does it? If you love watching FaZe for the bullshit, you love watching Vitality for their peak level, and you love like the potential of Furia and the Falcons firepower, then you have to add in, you love fucking watching Na'Vi play CS, because this team also, I knew as well after this major, by the way, 1 million YouTube videos were going to be made of people breaking down strats, because they also quite literally, it wasn't just shooting people in the head. They had all the fucking counters and they had all the antis and they'd studied all the demos. This is just a masterful performance, and I actually feel like the FaZe narrative overshadowed it. But if you're Na'Vi, I actually feel like, look, the only team that really could beat me in the playoffs here was Vitality. And actually, if I was them, I'd be thinking, I'd have had a crack at that. I'd done better than FaZe, maybe.
I'd agree. I think looking at Na'Vi, and I'm glad you touched on Immer, this was his best major since Paris, which was that breakout one. And one thing I know with him is if the vibe and the team is together good and he has that trust and belief in the team, that's when he'll start to perform better. So when that mood is good, they hit that point with jail, right? Now they're starting to hit it here where Wonderful is less tilted, more of the teamwork's happening, people are calling for the flashes and things are happening. And I feel like with Makazi coming in, he's got this fearless young player where both of them, they told me, there's some rounds where they're arguing who goes first. It's like, I want to take this shot. I want to take him down. It's not arguing in a bad way. It's like, Imma said, I'm going to go for this peak. And Makazi's like, nah, hold my beer. I'm going for it. And just like wide swings, complete confidence, complete aggression coming out. He's got that real, that Kosovo flow. If you think of like the BNE teams coming in there, like he still has that, but he's learning more of the system now. And obviously we heard about this on other podcasts that like Ima and Makazi are so close now together. Like they're talking a lot. That friendship is building. And for how the roles are and how especially works on the T side, this is so good for them. So right now it felt like everything clicked. I agree with you about Blade. He is the 6-month king. He gets a new roster. He says in 6 months something will happen. Yeah. And it's always changed changed after a major. And then you might suck all season. Like their best placing before the major was top 4 at Cologne, which is still good. It was the first event with Makazi. But then after that, it was terrible. Like it was way beyond what NAVI standards. Everyone was saying at that point, by the way, oh, Makazi needs to be kicked. Ima needs to be kicked. Maybe you need Alexi B as a new. And I'm like, no. The only problem and the only worry I have, because this is a very good point, and I agree with you completely, is that I'm scared that there will be a player change now, even though I would prefer if they stayed with this 5. Like for me as a NAVI fan, I would say I want to see this team continue into 2026, but I have an inkling, no info just yet, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I have an inkling that maybe something will still change.
Also,
I don't want anything to change.
That might even be one of those things where if it's going to be a silly season and like 10 teams are changing players, it also depends who becomes available. Like if there's no one there, but if the right name's there, they might just do it anyway. I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I'm working on. It's like I've got no insider information, but it's just that if this goes as crazy as it's looking, someone could be picked up and available, and Navi say, well, we've got the money and we've got the name brand, and a lot of people want to work with Blade. And that's the beauty of Navi is name a player realistically who wouldn't be happy to work under Blade. Like, I can't think of any who would turn that down. Even some of the people who have worked under Zonic or whatever. For me, Blade is definitely the GOAT coach because look at what he's been able to do and consistently without excuses. Like it's at this point untouchable.
The way that they dismantled Furia was extremely impressive also, just because you could tell it was mostly wrapped in the game plan that Alexi and Blade had. There were so many moments where they just get a perfect flash onto them, perfect backstab timings. That's the beauty of playing in the Blade system, and especially with Alexi at the helm. You're just getting so many easy kills, and who doesn't want their stats to be just improved when you get to play with a guy that's not looking at you? Like, I mean, I can't even imagine what a world would look like if Donk was in a Blade system. And I'm sure there is a little bit of a give and take. I'm sure that he's not necessarily going to always have the freedom to go for all of the fights that he normally would want to, some of which I'm sure he would win. But then 30% more of his kills are just easy ones. And that just makes the game feel like, well, even on the thing is, Donk doesn't really have bad days, but for even a player like, say, Rops, who occasionally, he'll have a game that's a little bit weaker by his standards, how much he would want to be in a system where almost regardless of whether you're having a good day or a bad day, you're probably getting 5 kills per half that were 4 out of 10 difficulty shots for you, by your own standards. So everybody wants that little bit of boost. I mean, I didn't know that aspect of them potentially going for a change after, because they renewed my interest in them. I didn't really know what to think of Navi coming into the tournament, with Wonderful popping off in stage 2 and 3, with Ima looking great, Makaze surprisingly just looking like he's already understanding the system at a high level. Then I don't really. The only thing I guess I would be curious about is if, Bit wasn't really looking all too sharp throughout this entire majors, and I don't know if he is. That's the one aspect of this where.
Did you see the rumors about Bit?
It seemed like it, yeah.
Yeah. So this is from inside Navi. I checked with the head of esports, and they said like Bit's contract's low and like he could maybe potentially go somewhere. That's not true. His contract is not up at the end of this year. G2 went before to Bit when Monassi was still on the team, and Falcons have gone to Navi, and they tried to get Bit as well. Both times Navi shut it down. For me, he's still the staple player. So that rumor that came out from my sources is that and that's inside Navi. They have no problem me saying that. Bit will not be the one that would be looking to go. Striker said something strange, though, that like maybe Alexi would go. That would be huge if Alexi went. Like there's nothing I heard, but like he said from the mood of the interview and the exit interview, like the words he was saying, when I watched it back, I could kind of understand why that might be a topic, but I don't think that would be like, if you think Blade and Alexi now have got such good synergy of understanding, especially the mid-rounding and how the micromanaging Alexi can do when required, exactly to the system, and they're now agreeing on it, like that is the change you don't make. I would just rebuild the team around those two, not change anything else.
Even if Ema could run the system 80% as well, that is still a 20% decrease in everybody's performance because everybody still hinges on that. And yeah, I mean, if I looked at Wonderful or Bit, they are the two players that I would say most poachable in terms of would some team want them. But then the thing is that most of the teams that would want to poach Wonderful already have an offer that they probably think is better, like the capable teams, I mean, in terms of the money that they have. And then, well, if you already are shutting down the bid aspect of this, then that's just... It's nice that they can safeguard a guy that I would hope is able to turn it on next season because I think the only thing that was kind of wavering for me or questionable is that Bid had a lot of very quiet games for me at this major.
Problem is, this was the good section, so I'm low-key like mildly bombed by what you're telling me here, because here's the other thing that I'm so scared of, BanKs. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, but who could you even get as IGL? There's no one available. And then Maui's going, but even if you had him run the tip, wait a minute, oh no, wait. His the Blade anti-power spike has been activated because what happens is he has a roster that he gets them to be amazing, and then he goes, you know what? See this aggressive rifler? I reckon he could be the IGL. It's like, no, Blade, please, no, please, no more Mr. Electronic, please. I can't just stick with the Lex. No, I hate that, mate. I hope that's not real.
Yeah,
please.
So do I.
In fact, the one thing that's been keeping me fucking snug in my bed at night, not sweating and tossing and turning, is knowing that surely the one player that fucking Falcons... Look, the good news about Falcons is this: they can buy anyone, and in theory, when they lose, maybe they'll think about it. But my two boys, Alexi B and Carrigan, thankfully, I feel like the Nico vetoes, I'm safe. They're not going to get bought, are they? Listen, he's already tried that before. He was on, not my tempo. He's like that fucking guy out of Whip. So anyway... And also, at this point in time, I'm just convinced Nico just has to be the IGL. Not even because it's a good move, because apparently you just know the fucking IGL's allowed to play with this guy. Like, all right, well, then you do it then. It's like I said about fucking Hallie and... Don't go in. You do it then. Shut up telling me about it, you dickhead. All right. And then also Hunter, like, he would be the best IGL. I mean, then why were you sitting with Snacks and Hooksy for 3 years? What are you talking about? Again, why are you giving me solutions that you could apply yourself? You know, I'm just a guy watching on the internet, right? I know it might seem like I control the whole thing. I don't control shit. I can't even put myself on a fucking tournament, you idiot. I'm just making YouTube videos. Anyway. Right, let's now go to, even though we're flaming the fuck out of everyone in the good section, let's go to the actual bad section where you're supposed to flame people. So, BanKs, what is bad right now?
Oh, the bad for me right now is Payne's fall off and just Brazil player options. Like, it's tough to take because I feel like Payne was on such a high. If we look at their event history, right, they were grinding. They were attending so many events. They were actually the best Brazilian team until Furia obviously got Molodoy, got Yukinda, started winning tournaments. Now they're not even like the second best because Legacy exists. And one of those players is the ex-player who was the second voice in the team before in Lux, who's now the in-game leader of Legacy. What I worry about here is I heard some things during this major at Star Ladder that like Davideus, DGT, both incredibly skilled players, but they were never on the same page. So in these micro moments, even though they understand Portuguese, because some fans came at me and they were like, obviously it's Brazilian fans coming at me and they're like, no, these guys, they speak perfect Portuguese. One of them does live in Brazil, speaks Portuguese. His girlfriend is from Brazil, but that doesn't mean that same quick communication works in Counter-Strike. I don't know how people don't understand this yet, but if he has to think himself about what word he should use and then use it, or he has to listen and think about what they're saying and then make a move from there, it's not going to work out. Now, Maui, you'll remember, there was moments, Davideus was on fire. He was given so much, but guess what? The rest of the team started crumbling, so his numbers just look good, but then they were not good. And they now find themselves, and by the way, the good thing about this is that this is the good part of the very bad overall, is that they made that cut straight after the major. 3 days after their last game, DGT, Davideus gone. So now, for me, they have to go all Brazil. Now, I don't know if Payne's got money, but the bad thing is, I would instantly say they need Insani. Take him from MIBR. But then you've got these horrible contracts in Brazil that seems to be the norm, which like Insani He went from being like one of the most promising players. We watched him on the academy leagues. We saw what he could do. And now he is borderline okay. Yes, he has the skill. Yes, he has the mechanics, but he is not up to anywhere near the standard of what he should be because he's stuck on this weird MIBR roster and he's now contract locked forever. So my thing is that you could actually effectively have 3 Brazilian teams within the top 20 in the world, Pain, Legacy, Furia. But you can't right now with Pain because of these contract things. Like, who are they supposed to get? They are completely locked out of being able to get any players that can really like help them rise up. They already took the gamble on Snow. And okay, he is being wavering, but now he finally has his positions. He only got to play at this major, so it is certainly a chance. There's obviously they believe in him. Big Yzera changes roles, changes positions, changes everything for the team, goes back to old positions, still does well, still plays to an exceptionally high level. NQZ delivering at the same time as well. It's like you can't waste what Pain has right now by having to deal with this contract. So unless they've got some unlimited money, I feel like their fall off will just sadly continue because I don't know where they're going to go or what they're going to get. And if you're the whole, I know the Brazilian organizations are thinking, okay, well, we need to make money and this is how the contract is, but this is killing your scene. Like the scene will die because already Furia left it and that's your biggest organization. Now Pain is going to have these same problems. And MIBR has got one Kazakhstani and one Russian player and they perform terribly at the major. Like you're internally destroying everything and it is awful for the future of their game because any young player wants to come up and try a tier 2, tier 3 team, even that contract's hell. Like, even that's hard to get them out of. The numbers I'm hearing for players like Insani are kind of 1.5, 2 million. I'm sorry, you're not going to pay that for him. He's not going to a Falcons. He's not going to a Vitality. This is insane. So it's so rough. It's so bad. And I don't know how they dig themselves out of this hole other than some billionaire coming and saying, you know what, let's just throw some money at it.
There's so much to pick on for Pain and they're how fucked they are. They're just so fucked. It's they tied themselves to the wrong guy. They tied themselves to Snow, who's not great. I mean, I feel like people think because Snow's young that he's gonna somehow blossom. Dude, he's been on Pain for a year and a half. It's been longer than that. I think it's been even a year and maybe 9 months or something. It's been a really long time. And now they did swap positions. It's been 3 months. Okay, so what anybody could do at home, if they're listening, is they could go on Snow's page. They look at his 2025 rating, and then they compare it to his last 3 months. It barely improved. It barely improved at all. Like, he's barely any better. And versus top 20, he's still, like, in the red. He's still completely in the red. Davideus got worse because he swapped positions with Snow. And Davideus was one of their better aggressive rifle players. Yep. And then you lost DGT, and who, at the beginning when he was on Pain, he was a really good lurker for them. He was really good on T-sides. Just seemed to play off of intuition as he was getting acclimated with the team. And he was doing a great job. Actually, what's funny is once he started playing more with Pain, he actually got a little bit worse for them. And I don't know why that is exactly. Maybe they were saying, you can't do this, you have to do this. And then he felt a little bit caged by that. I mean, lurkers it's tough to always grade them because it's like you're trying to do stuff within the flow of a team to make sure you're holding on to space, but you want to take just enough risk within the system that it makes sense for the team to allow that. And at the beginning, he was better, but to lose Davideus is, to me, it's just a shock, and it's disappointing because if throughout the whole year, Davideus, I mean, in the very beginning of the year, I probably did lightly overrate him, but there were a handful of events where he had green ratings, lands, whatever. I mean, Fisher, Austin Major, all of that looked really good for him. But then the last few months, when it just got way worse because they started swapping his spots around with Snow, and then Snow, who still, by the way, in the red in terms of rating on many of these events, now you just have but 2 guys who suck. So I don't know how this is any better than the position you were in when Davideus was there. I just think that they're doing it because... But the problem is also Davideus definitely... I can say I don't think DGT spoke Portuguese as well, but Davideus was on enough Portuguese-speaking teams in the past that he was able to converse with them.
He was on Red Canids.
Because he was on, Red Canids. Yeah, I think he might have been on another one as well, but I think this is DGT's first time being on a full
he was on
Portuguese
9Z
speaking
before,
lineup.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The Argentinian team. So he was clearly not speaking, or they were speaking Spanish. So that's obviously going to be tough for him. And I could have understood if they went for one instead of both, but dropping Davideus and then pinning your future to snow to me feels like a very bad gamble. So I'm not too high on this team in general. I also think that there's certain things that to address with. I mean, I'm not sure if I really. I'll save that.
I'll just say this. The reason why it's a bomber to me is because people are going to forget they were in the semi-finals of the last major. And before anyone goes, yeah, they played Fury. Fury's now supposed to be the best. Like it was the same roster. I understand, yes, it hadn't come online, it hadn't started cooking yet. But first of all, it wasn't bad. If anything, they underperformed in that quarterfinal. So you look at it, they were top 4 of the major. Like, it's really hard to even fluke that nowadays. And it wasn't like it was totally Bobkiss. Like, Big Azera does look like a really good leader. Actually, in their team, NQZ had a great major, if you remember, at the last one. Then they made this roster move, which is a really ballsy roster move, where you try and bring in these 2 players that for their teams, 9Z and Red Kid, they were the stars. They were these riflers that you'd want to bring in. Yes, you have the whole like language element, etc. But the whole point is, spoiler, everyone in Brazil's having to bring in fucking people who don't naturally speak Portuguese. That's currently the meta, isn't it? Like at this point in time, because of what BanKs says, this economy within Brazil of like contracts and how much the buyouts are, people don't get it. It's not totally just the idea of like you can never leave because you're on a huge contract. It's like you can leave, but then the numbers that are quoted is like for real. It's like 700k buyout, and it's like he hasn't done anything yet though. Like I can't. Like, the reason you can do that for like a super prospect is they might be insane immediately. You can do it for like a player who's already established. You can't spend 700k as a small Brazilian org on a player that's never been into the playoffs of a major and then go, hope it works out. This is one thing people don't realise about teams like G2, Team Liquid, etc. These teams sometimes fuck up and in the same season have to like buy another player. That's really fucking expensive. You don't make that money back selling G2 jerseys, I'll tell you that right now. And then the other problem you have is this. Here's where, though, it's a bit of a bomber, because I'm with you. The reason it's bad, because look, I actually think these roster moves are the right moves, is because one, the whole project has just dissolved at the moment, and Legacy is actually like levels above them right now. But even worse, I don't know who they get. I actually can't even spitball who it is, because I'll put it this way, in some forthcoming content that you'll see soon, someone actually addressed exactly this topic of the economic situation in Brazil, and they just described it like this. Like, they said something similar. They were like, feels bad for Insani, but then he's re-signed a contract recently. It's like, mate, you're the one signing it. It's like, I always say this. Can we stop saying people are in contract prison? Well, all he meant like within the last year, I assume. Like, he signed another one.
Okay.
If you're in we know when people say you're in contract jail, it's not really jail. If someone goes, would you like to leave the cell? And you go, no, lock it, double lock that. And then you go, actually, I'll be my own warden and keep myself. You're just jailing yourself at that point in time, mate. So right now, spoiler, they're not going to get Insani from MIBR. They're not going to get Lato from Legacy. Like, these moves aren't going to happen. They're just going to sit with whatever, I assume, gamble on like rookies or something at this point in time.
They got academy players. That's
just what it's going to have to be. So unfortunately, you're just wishing on a star now. Absolutely wishing on a star. And it's so rare. This is why, actually, in a weird way, Molodoy is actually like harmed fans' perception of what's possible with moves. Because they're like, just go and get... Bro, even the Klim guy isn't Molodoy. And that was even a decent pickup. So it's like, there just aren't Molodoys out there, unfortunately. So I don't know how they do it. And even worse, I actually thought this was a good gamble, this roster, but it just completely failed. If anything, all they did at the end was, one, benefit from the Americas spots to the major. And then two, they sort of like picked it up a little bit at the end of the season. But they were having some really... Like, if you guys must have seen it when you saw the Veto. Their map page was atrocious. You'd be like, they play like 2 maps. They just get the others were like 20% win rate, 0% win rate, 0%, and they were attending the tournament. So no, I think it's actually they're in such a bad spot. It's a good bad. It's not even ugly. It's just bad right now. Until we see something different happen, it's just a bad state of affairs for Pain.
Unfortunately for Pain, they're stuck in a horrible situation. However, you don't have to be stuck in terrible activewear. Snake Banter is grateful to be sponsored by Fabletics, who are giving you 80% off their website. Biggest sale of the season when using our code. So you can go to their website, Fabletics, FABLETICS.com/snake, and that'll apply our code. And me personally, I've gotten really particular about fabric blends. So, for example, when I'm on long flights, I like to have 100% cotton. But when I know that I want to be lightly active, but also kind of lounge around the house as I'm doing today, I like these blends, and Fabletics actually have a lot of different polyester cotton combos because, for example, the one I'm wearing right now, I think it's roughly 60% cotton, 40% polyester. And so it maintains a strong enough neckline even after I send it through the wash a couple times. It's really light when wearing it around the house. And I mean, it's so stretchy that I can do deadlift, bench press, pull-ups, doesn't matter.
All right,
and I'm going to feel great about it. So, but that's not bragging. That's just my.
So yeah, when I'm busting out like the Hulk in the gym, it even still maintains its shape, you know, with that massive.
Exactly. And that, no, I am literally going to head to the gym immediately after recording this podcast. So yeah, no, I mean, go to Fabletics. You can get a lot of their activewear. I've tried on their hoodies, which are nice. Some of their joggers. I've actually got a couple of their socks that I'm wearing too as well. Now, I've got a bunch of their stuff, and I can swear by the fact that it is really good for wearing just casually or just to work out. So yeah, I mean, it's super, super clean also. Nothing like too intrusive or anything like that. It's just clean silhouettes, modern designs, good activewear. Head to their website, fabletics.com/snake.
I have a sidebar to ask you about here, Maui, which is, you know that famous meme, and by the way, if there's any women listening, it's not a meme. You know, in the same way as that there was that thing of like, and men think about the Roman Empire. It's not necessarily always the Roman Empire, but men all have like a mad thing. That's why everyone loves Gladiator. It'll be something like, maybe for British, it's the British Empire, or it's like fucking, you know, some sort of like cool shit in it. Maybe samurais is your shit or whatever. Everyone does have some weird thing that attracts them. Well, in the same way, another classic meme is that thing where if you're in the gym, and you have to get that last rep out and your body's failing, your brain's telling you to stop, you do that thing where you think mad shit like, my whole family's going to die if I don't pick this fucking weight, right? It's sort of true, but the other angle you can do is you do just pick something to channel your energy into. Like, I won't lie. Sometimes if I'm actually working out, I will, if the gym's empty and I know there's no one there, so it's not awkward, or I will do that thing where I'll go like full Dragon Ball Z banks. Yeah. Where I'll just say some shit like, you can't, I'll do some David Goggins stuff. You can't stop me with the fucking, do like the leg press or something, you know, so why not? It's cool. It's actually sick, innit? So what I want to know is, obviously my joke here is, when Maui's training, he trains like Rocky IV, you know, he's just got like that zweih on the punching bag, fucking cowers or whatever. So what I want to know is, do you have an angle like that, Maui? Are you just a Zen guy where you work out? Do you channel your aggression? Do you bring the fight out? What do you do?
I mean, when I haven't been really reaching for PRs for a long time or anything. It's been about 2 years since I hit all my PRs, but what did I do then? I think it was just the ambition to get to those goals, but I guess the most common thing I would do to
you're gonna hire me for this major. Okay, I'll see how it is. Okay, all right.
It's actually completely un-Counter-Strike related.
All right, okay, right.
I think I just blare my eardrums out like crazy. I think I actually have hurt my eardrums.
Oh, I can't lie. Even though obviously I would not advise anyone at home do this. If you are having a hard time with that X rep, put that volume up to go from 17 to 19.
Oh, I've just maxed it out. I'm used to maxing the whole thing out on my headphones all the time.
Don't have any like chill music. Go straight for that that Limp Bizkit break stuff or some shit. Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, it's also crazy when people say that they listen to our podcast while working.
I know. Like, what are you doing?
How is this helping you bust another rep out? Like, I need music only. Yeah. Podcasts are for cardio, but honestly, for weightlifting, it has to be loud music.
And maybe that's why fucking Spirit's always hating on us, because Hallie's just like ripping his muscles apart, and he's just hearing you like the way that he's using chop, and he's like, he just associates the opinion with all the pain he's feeling. Like, that hurts me inside. Fuck this guy. I know. Okay.
I'm glad Thorin brought up the Dragon Ball reference in there. I have the craziest playlist for gym. I use a Dragon Ball trap playlist, so it's Dragon Ball music mixed in with trap going hard as hell. I will send you it after.
You have to link me that sounds ridiculous.
It's got the voice lines in of like some of the key moments from Naruto from Dragon Ball, and the whole time I'm like mega focused. Like, okay, I got this.
That's good. I also exactly what I would have expected that you listened to, but also it's so on brand. It's so incredibly on brand.
Of course.
I can get to my bad point though now. I can get to mine. It's disappointing. I mean, we've talked about the flip side of this, that it was Navi that defeated him, but I would even extend this all the way back to what happened at Austin, and I just gotta single him out right here. I'm not, it's just purely bad for me. there may be a light at the end of the tunnel. I think we've even seen it in some of the events that have happened thus far. But Molodoy, Jesus, in major playoffs, this guy has yet to show up for I would even argue really a map. I mean, this has been now 2 consecutive major playoff series where the moments clearly just swallowed him. I mean, I think the round that really epitomized it was at the end of Train versus Navi. I think Makaze is just he's just strafing down Ivy, and Molodoy has maybe 3 opportunities to just take him down, and he just whiffs every single consecutive shot to the point where then he just gets pushed. They lose control of that space. And what was a game that already had very little hope at that point, you realize that Furia were indeed exiting the tournament in the quarterfinals of the major. And a lot of that came down to Molodoy being ineffective and incapable of providing Furia even a semblance of what he did in the other tournaments. And I could bring up the other aspects of this that I feel like it goes without saying. Molodoy, he changed the face of Furia and their CT sides ever since he got on this roster. I mean, it gave, Fallen, albeit occasionally serviceable once per CT half, Molodoy frequently hand delivers Furia at least 2 or 3 rounds per gun round. It's absurd how frequently he can put himself in the right position, multi-frag by re-peeking people, not get taken down by trade fraggers. I mean, he's pushing the game's limits of what you can do almost in static positions with the AWP. It's so crazy, but unfortunately in the Pain series, he was a hindrance to Furia, and in the Navi series, he definitely was as well. So I hope, it's not like I'm targeting him hoping he fails, because we have seen in other tournaments how much of an asset he can be. I mean, the guy collected 2 MVPs throughout this season. I was banking on him doing it for my pick'ems this major for him to right his wrongs, but now the worst part about it is that's just going to be seared in his brain. Because they're probably, I don't see them really going anywhere from being a top 10 team minimum, and by virtue of that, probably a favorite to make it to the following major playoffs. You never know until it happens, but if he's still in that mindset that he thinks, okay, this is my 3rd crack at a major, I got to make sure that everything goes right. I mean, once you start just thinking about all of the possible ways that you can fail, it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it's what's strange? Like, he has such confidence, but it's both of those majors. He's only had 2 right. It's people look at the stats and they'll go, oh, it's not that bad. But it's both times exiting in quarters and both times failing in the quarters. And we now know from the rest of the events this year, it's not about big stages. It's just about the majors. So, like, incredibly talented, has all these skills with him. And by the way, when I saw him before he went to the major playoffs to step on stage, he had the same kind of atmosphere, spoke in the same way, same confidence. Like, I didn't see a notable difference from him. But when he's hitting in that server, it's a problem. And I'll tell you one thing. I spoke to some of the Navi guys about it, and they just said he kept re-peeking on Ivy. I think it's like 3 re-peeks. And Makazi's just like creeping up on the side and just knows he's going to get him. Like, if the guy's missing that much. And they said it's very easy. If he doesn't hit the first shot, he always re-peeks. It's like almost like he's guaranteed to take it, where it might be better for him to reposition himself, go back, take the shot from somewhere else. But it's almost like a stubbornness that he needs to get past, because if it started to be noted by other players now, this will hurt him, not just at majors, but at following events as well, because we've now seen it at a couple of best-of-5 grand finals where he started off very slow, and then he did ramp up to it, and then in the grand final, he has like a great rating at the end. But if you watch the specific maps, his team buys some time for him before he actually comes back and shows us that form. If he can find a way of mentally dealing with that, or understanding like why he can start off slow, then you can unlock his true potential. But he's still being held back in so many ways right now. So actually, I think it's a really good bad point, because if it continues this way and it hits another major, then that's where you it's alarm bells ringing of how you try and fix that, because the greatest players do perform at majors, and they don't choke in these moments.
No, that's why I even like it as a bad, because the bad point isn't Molodoy is a bad player, he isn't good enough, he's totally fine. The problem is, in the two biggest events though, it just hasn't happened, and actually both times you were a favourite. Like, here's what's crazy. A lot of people were saying stuff, even though I think it's debatable, some people were saying before that quarter-final that was the most lopsided quarter-final, Furia versus Navi, in favour of Furia. If you go to those, like, talent and fucking commentator, plus, like, the three friends who were content creators of the guy who made the graphic. I don't know how some of these motherfuckers get on there. That's why I did the Conor McGregor thing. Who the fuck is that guy? Like, who are you, mate? It's like, okay, fucking, he's my neighbour. Who gives a fuck what he predicts? Put me on there, you bitch. Anyway, whatever. I was the only person who wasn't French who had Vitality winning the event. I noticed I don't get on the fucking graphic. I can't even get hired to a fucking talent graphic at this point in time. Maybe I'd start talent anymore, mate. I can't accept it. I'm not a streamer. I'm not talent. I don't commentate the game. And I'm not French. I mean, the last one's good for me, but, 2 out of 3, whatever. Anyway, so the point is, everyone had fucking Fury winning that one. No human being had Navi winning that game. So it's really bad. Here's the thing.
Except James Banks.
Oh, you did actually. Fair enough. Fuck it.
I was delusional. Sure. It's always, I just put them all away.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's not of any genius. It's not of any analyst.
Right.
It's just me choosing Navi all the way.
But the difference is, though, like, if you are actually an underdog, like, here's what's funny. I don't blame Swift how he played versus Vitality. He was in the fucking semis of the major, playing the #1 team in the world. Well, not by the ranking, but that was left in the tournament, let's just say. So I do think this particular one was the most egregious as well. Like, bro, if you want to, I'll pull up the stats. So you can obviously now, thanks to all the filters on HLTV, you can just look at the 2 playoff series he played in the majors this year. Pain Gaming at Blast Austin, which, by the way, that we just said is already in fucking dire straits. And then Navi now, who actually has just been kind of like all right this year. They weren't even an elite team. His rating for the year in these 2 matches is 0.83. And on CT side, it is 0.69. Guys, on CT side, that's what all the AWPers farm. Like, you might laugh at those VP players. They all fucking cook the CT side, man. What are you talking about? That's where you just sit there and shoot people with a gun. So then you go and consider, like, this is why it's so bad, because I hate seeing great players play badly. People don't get this. There'll be a point coming later in the show. The reason I'm always going to call fucking ZywOo out when he doesn't perform is because, bro, you could be the GOAT. Instead of telling me you are and then claiming you are and then pretending you don't want to be, but you secretly do, and then I don't care about what rating I get, but then when I'm third, I'm a bit mad at it, then just fucking commit to it. Have the balls to actually say, like my boy Simple did, I am the GOAT, I want to be, and I will show you. Because then I will fucking be on board. I'll be the first person. I'll fucking be pushing past people trying to get to first class like some fucking Jack in Titanic, which I haven't even seen as a movie. I'm good at making references sound like it's legit. Anyway, don't worry about it. So... And there's also the factor that this is why I know he's not bad. So here's his stats for the last 3 months, including the major, by the way. Including the major, the last 3 months on LAN, he has a 1.14 HLTV rating in playoff series. And are you ready? This is the one that's incredibly positive. Against the top 5, he's played 19 maps. I assume including like all these ones. He is a 1.19 rating player. Like, that is fucking amazing for someone who, even though he's like 21, is a rookie. Like, he hasn't played at this level before. So the sky is the limit for this guy. Essentially, as a player, he's ended up being like the fucking Aurora of players. Because if you don't know Aurora, the only tournaments they fail at the major, aside from that, they're always like a competitive team. They're really dangerous. So, in the same way as, even though people might think because of their fans, I hate Aurora, if I had a fucking genie tomorrow, well, there's a lot of things I'd wish, but if I was at the bottom of the list where I had to pick some about Turkish Counter-Strike, then yes, I would absolutely pick Aurora and fucking win tournaments and get Santares actually be like a top 10 player on HLTV because he'll have the placings. So I think it's a bomber. And also right now, because it's a rookie problem where you're sort of having the psychological issues, I always say this, it's easy to tell people just get a sports psychologist. It's not a mechanic, mate, who comes in and goes, your fucking gasket's off there. No, look, the mind is a fucking mystery. Like, that's even why the thing you said about Wonderful is interesting. He doesn't just sit back and go, I'll just work with the Navi person. He has his own person as well. Maybe that person's more tailored to him. You never know what background, what type of person you need to get your motor cooking. Obviously, I'll even be, well, I won't, because I'm going to do that thing where I just do it. I'm going to do the Donald Trump thing where you go, I didn't even call you fat and ugly. It's like, you just did, but you sort of get away with it. So I'm going to do this. I won't even bring up the fact that you all tell me Fallen taught him how to warp. Problem is, he took the lessons too literally at the major. Whatever, anyway. Listen, it was there. It was hanging right there. But I'm not even going to do that. That would be rude and, I don't know, callous. So I'm not going to do that. Delete all that from your mind. I just hope he has a great major next time and becomes a top 10 player in the world. Please do it. Okay, now we have moved to my bad point. And I'll tell you what, Sadly, I actually appear on so many shows, even though I have an amazing memory. I can't remember what show I said this on, but I did go on someone else's show. Fuck, what show was it? Was it something with Ted or something? I don't know. It could be King T. It was one of those ones where, like, I always joke to Maui, like, I used to save points for shows. Now I'm really ruthless. I treat other people's podcasts, if they're way smaller than mine, like an open mic night, and I'm testing material out, and then I'll just do the really polished shit on my show where it's really great fun, you know. So listen, that's just how it is, boys. I even told them, by the way, on this King T one, like, look, I actually already made a whole bunch of points on a different show, so you don't have to do this topic, but I'm just going to do them again, but better. So anyway, I said on one of these shows, they asked me before the major, right, we were doing the usual, you know, who's going to win the major and stuff. And then, and maybe it was even my own show, maybe it was even count points with Pimp. And then we said, right, we have to pick a team, though, that's going to fail at the major. And so I said, well, the obvious one to me, because of where their ranking is, I think they went number 4, is MOUZ. Like, you look at them, that last season, look, they were still getting, you know, some good top 4s, and the only teams beating them, by the way, were the elite team, so I'm not pretending I thought FaZe would beat them, but they were the team where it's like, look, if anyone's going to just fuck it up somehow, there's something cursed and or special about this team when it comes to big pressure moments, and this was worse than I even anticipated. Bro, even I thought they were beating FaZe. In fact, I thought, mate, that's just what the doctor ordered. Team that barely got through against fucking Passion UA and shit like that. And then you're just going to get to play them now at the actual round of 8. This is just what you need as a little warm-up. Then you get in the semis, okay, then maybe we can even fuck with Fury. Remember, we beat Fury before. Like, maybe we're the team that can go to the fight. Bang straight out in the fucking quarters. That's just depressing to me. And then also, you look at all the storylines. Bro, this is why you've got to be really careful hyping the home crowd. First of all, it's not a home crowd, is it? Everyone from Europe travels into the events. It's like Cologne. Yeah. So when they were going, send them home, that wasn't you Hungarian people shouting that. And then also, doesn't he work as a joke? He's already home, isn't he? That joke doesn't even really work. And then lastly, of all the people, Torgy shit the motherfucking bed. That was really sad. You know, not every Hobbit makes it.
Too much. Yep.
So you're all thinking he's a Hobbit, like, oh, he's cool like Mr. Frodo or Samwise. Mate, he's one of the Hobbits who got bodied in the fucking Scourging of the Shire. He was in chains going out that arena. So I think that's really sad. And also, by the way, it's the playoffs. I've no doubt his whole family was there, like, oh, good. I can't wait to watch our son/nephew play the. Oh, shit, what's happening? Please. And then he's like on some fucking, like, I don't feel so good, Mr. Carrigan's fucking getting Thanos snapped out of reality by some bullshit that shouldn't even have happened. Fucking Brokey. Brokey stole your dreams. He stole your dreams, Torgy. Also, by the way, drop the nice guy act. Contact me, mate. We need to start shit talking. We need to get a bit of edge in there. We need to, when you're training, mate, when you're rubbing that delicious beard oil into your hair, going, I like top, but I don't hit all the shots. Like, it's all right, it's good. You're going for it. Here's what I don't get. I'll say one thing. I'll make it about Torgy here to make it funny. Mate, the way that you warp is the way I want MOUZ to play. Swing for the fucking fences. Just go for it. If you get bodied, by the way, that happens anyway. Why not just fucking go for it? Because the worst thing about this round of 8 match was FaZe did some crazy shit. Brokey had a great, but it was Brokey Friday, as Maui said. But I'll tell you what, the assist goes to fucking MOUZ, boys. They didn't even make that a game. Like, it wasn't like Brokey won the most epic game. No, he popped off and MOUZ just sat there taking a beating. Like, my analogy goes like this. I won't make it too far on some full Shawshank shit. But if someone's fucking wrecking you, you don't pull your pants down and spread the cheeks for them. You fight them off. You get it. Listen, careful with that euphemism. I mean metaphorically, when people are oppressing you in life and when they come at you, Maui, in that aggressive way with their penetrating comments that fuck with who you are, your core identity. You've got to fight them off. Listen, I'm not saying Andy made it away every time. You know, that was the line from what I've read in that movie, wasn't it? You know, anyway, the point is, fight back for fuck's sake. Because the sad thing is, by the way, MOUZ is another team I want to believe in so badly. I actually think some of their players are really good. I even think low key, by the way, if you end the project tomorrow, I would sign like 3 or 4 of these players to the other top 5 teams of the world and make out super teams and shit. So it just bombs me out that they're all staying loyal. They've all stayed in this team, and then you've never even got close to a major final. You've just blown it every time. Obviously, you don't have to do the whole fucking prison angle I was going on. Just take it out a second. BanKs, what do you think about?
There was a lot to digest in that one, Doug. There was a lot to digest. So I got a couple of issues with MOUZ on terms of just not so much the players, but just like internally within that team. Like I'm gonna give you this. I'll give you this banger. I used it when I got hit with it. Not Sabrina, who's obviously a very good manager they have, great person. But one of their managers wrote after, worried about them losing. This is before the quarterfinal game was played. He said, "Hi. Was anything reviewed for the exit interview after yesterday? The questions after the Mongolz exit were not acceptable. We also received this kind of question last year for the major. We would like to ensure that we do not question about roster changes based on random speculation or any questions regarding the future of players just moments removed from a defeat." And I'm like, well, funny enough, I have to ask some of these questions. And based on the relationship I have with them, some people I do, some people I don't. Torzy was nearly crying, so I actually chose not to, not because of his message. But Techno, for example, no problem. He was able to handle it. He gave it as he wants. Sometimes they'll just give you no comment, but it's your job to train the players. So if you're this worried, by the way, it sounded like he already had the idea they were going to lose. Yeah. Like, so negativity in the whole team at that point. Yeah. And you actually now sparked my interest more, and I started to dig deeper that they are going to make changes because Yimfat's supposed to go. They can take PR back from Game Legion because he was on loan, and they can do the same thing like they did with Shuhei. You know, this is all possible. So my thing is actually, while this was bad performance from MOUZ, I don't think they're going to be a true title contender or a trophy contender, not because of the players, but because you've got this soft-ass management. If your organization is this soft, like, that is pathetic. Like, how are you supposed to raise champions? How are you supposed to grow people as players? I think Cyclone is a great coach. I think he definitely knows now the changes do need to happen. But I feel like this team has been middling for so long that some other team would be happy with this position, but they're clearly aiming for trophies. They had one. What was it, Maui? Was it Cluj?
Cluj.
Yeah, when we did. So it was Cluj that they got, right? The one trophy. Not even a big S-tier event, you know? It's not one of the elite trophies you want to be lifting. You've been in grand finals again. You've been constantly top 3, 4 in the world. You've been able to hold your position there. But now it's a breaking point where your players, that whole little click you had is not believing. They're not looking as confident anymore. They've been able to grow these players up into playing tier 1, but now they're hard stuck. And I think a lot needs to change within MOUZ, not just the players, but the approach of the organization. And like you said, right, you want to talk to Torzy Duncan and get him to be hyped up, you know, talk some more shit. I would love to see that as well. I'd give him some attitude. You can't play it safe. It's our competitors. We are playing a game where we bomb shit and shoot people all the time. You can't be sat there going, oh, yeah, it's unlucky. We're all the best friends. Because also another thing, so many teams tell us they are family. So much of that is bullshit. I've heard this time and time again, and then I hear from the same players of that team. This isn't a MOUZ thing, by the way. No one on MOUZ has said this to me. But I've seen this from other organizations, and then they'll be saying, actually, this guy's an arsehole. I hate playing with him. He's so difficult to play with, you know? There is a lot of fakeness around this. They right now need to rebuild to win. They need to look at their problems and come at it the right way, because it's been the same roster, the same players. Obviously, Spinks is more new in. You can give him maybe a break for Brolan being an IGL, but he crumbling like mad under these pressure situations. I spoke to him at Lisbon, and he was very good on the exit interview, you know, very understanding. Like, he said he wasn't ready to call a best-of-5 grand final. He had his own struggles. He was being honest with it, and he was still kind of new to the role, but I haven't seen him develop right now. If I'm the mastermind right now of MOUZ, which definitely I'm not, is like, you'd probably say Brolan gets removed. You bring PR in. Zershan, who's been more vocal, because you're not going to put Torzy as the AWP IGL. Zershan goes to IGL, and they bring some other player in. They definitely have the caliber of players and team around them as a name to bring another player in that can elevate the team. But right now, something's not working. So I think it's a really bad major for them, and it's a really bad showing, because they almost had not a freeway to the finals, but like a good chance, like a high possibility chance to make grand finals, especially when NAVI then eliminated Furia.
Yes.
There's a lot of aspects of MOUZ that, I guess, in terms of mentality, that's probably the biggest detractor, just because it doesn't feel like they have that veteran figure that's going to say, we're going to make it over this problem, regardless of circumstance. So when I look at, he's...
Keep going.
Okay, he's here. Okay, yeah. So, but when I look at them in the quarterfinals from a more just Counter-Strike perspective, I just feel like they were actually surprisingly readable. And I think that's kind of been the prevailing factor for what's disappointing about MOUZ, is that I don't think that Brolan really runs strats and mid rounds with much discretion. I just feel like he's just going off of what Cyclone tells him. And at the beginning, that was fine. And I still think that he hopes to God and prays for dear life that the strat will just carry him through the round. It almost feels like he's just nervously working through the strat book as the rounds themselves are playing out. And it almost is kind of, reminiscent of when I watch Exertion and when I see him and what he has problems with when he's in big stage moments where he can just kind of run the strat, and it's almost like he's reacting to a player on his screen instead of being ready for the fight. Like, if you watch a donk POV versus an Exertion POV, who are both, by the way, elite entry fraggers. I mean, they're in the top 6 or so entry fraggers in the world, both of them. But donk, it just seems so, like, every fight, whether if he's reacting to it, he has this like really calculated way of working his micro to make him so difficult to hit for the opponent. And he's also sometimes he's very predictive of the fight that's going to come next. It seems like he always seems to he has a great sense of it. Whereas Exertion almost just looks like he's sort of reacting to everything on his screen live as it's happening instead of, there's rare moments in high pressure games where I see Exertion where he's just super dialed in, pre-aiming everybody perfectly, that he knows what's the next fight every single time as he's rounding the corner. And when I'm talking about their T side though as a whole on a macro side, dude, FaZe stacked the right bomb site against MOUZ's T side and Inferno maybe 80% of the time. They had 3 guys on B when MOUZ were going B. They had 4 guys on A when MOUZ were going A. Almost every time they just knew what was happening. And looking back at some of those, I was kind of curious how FaZe was able to do that. And I just feel like MOUZ were not putting enough pressure across the map. And that's something where I think they need to address that themselves. For a team that I thought was a lot more tactical and thorough, I was kind of surprised that FaZe made pretty simple reads based off of, oh, there's a lot of nades towards banana. Yeah, we're going to gamble the third guy towards B. Oh, there's a lot of nades that are setting up this bracket A take. Okay, yeah, we're just going to start rotating guys over. So they either need to spring into action a lot faster without having all of their utility set so that they can surprise opponents more, or they need to actually play to punish, like play off of a timing, like take map control, wait for 20 seconds, see if there's any reaggress from the opponents, then go into it. So I think I'm kind of surprised that their tactics look as almost just basic as they did in their series versus FaZe. I think there's been other times throughout the year they've looked better than this, but I just needed to understand why FaZe were so good on their CT side of Inferno when I was looking at other games, and so that just caught my eye. That I was just like, huh, they're really always knowing what MOUZ are going to do before they do it. So that's a T side thing, and it's also kind of why I rated Brolin personally fairly low for my IGLs for the year. I mean, I just worked through my 20 best in-game leaders through 2025. I had Brolin as my 14th best in-game leader throughout the year. I had a lot of people that I could say maybe a couple of the names you would maybe say they didn't play enough high tier 1 events, but I would pretty confidently put at least 9 of those guys above him. And then it's really just, I put a couple like JT above him. That's maybe a little bit of homerism, also just doing more with weaker pieces. But yeah, I would also, but against people like Apex, Alexi, Fallen, Kixan, Blitz, Kerrigan, I mean, those guys ate him for lunch all the time, all year long. And that's something where, yeah, I understand he's a new in-game leader to the role, but there are even times where I liked Hunter's calling more than Brolin's calling. And that's a guy that just started doing it too. So I think there's a lot, there's so much more for Brolin to attain as an in-game leader or a captain. I'm curious if they actually just stick with him as the in-game leader, or they want to test somebody else that's on the up-and-comer market.
Well, if I actually did want to know what happened in that FaZe series, I'd give Carrigan a call. Problem is, if you're MOUZ, you actually have all these issues, don't you? Have people under contract already? Can they even go elsewhere? Can they go soon? Can they go medium term? Can they go long term? Well, you know what? If I was in the US, I'm not American. Spoiler, I'm British, and I don't, in fact, actually never plan on going to America again. Let's see. Who knows? Fingers crossed, right? But if I was in America, I'd use Mint Mobile. And the reason why, it's simple. First of all, unlike MOUZ, they have no contracts and no nonsense. They're never going to let you down like in the major quarterfinals and shit the bed against someone like that. Also, they have 3, 6, and 12-month plans for $15 a month. So you don't have to get locked into something long term. You can just enjoy the time period you want to enjoy with Mint Mobile. What is Mint Mobile, you ask? Well, it is the nation's largest 5G network, and it comes with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on it. You can bring your current phone and your number over to Mint. So obviously, this was brought to you by Mint Mobile. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/snakebanter, all one word. That's mintmobile.com/snakebanter. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, and $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes. May slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. I think I will, thank you. Except I'm not American. Right, anyway, now we're going to go on to the next point. And that is obviously going to be BanKs' ugly point. Yes, there we go.
Oh, yes. My ugly point here is it's not around just like the hate watching of Falcons, but it's the Falcons pressure. Because we can hate watch Falcons all you want, but the pressure I see from the organization itself and internally, I think now is a negative on the rest of the team. And we can talk about the rest of the year events they've had since Kioski's come in, much better events, certain stuff to be positive about. But when it comes to the majors, I feel like this team will never succeed unless the organization changes their way of doing things and the way of them approaching it. Because we saw the no PC bootcamp memes, we saw the changing the players' lifestyles and in little ways, right? Now, I know it's something that worked for the Astralis side, which Sonic and obviously Lars have worked on. Never going to discredit their work like that. But you also need to adjust and adapt your work to fit the players you have on what suits best their needs. The Manasi I know who is the best and could be a future greatest player of all time, this was obviously much in the past, was the one who was grinding all the time, had maybe the erratic schedule, was non-stop playing the game and all into it. Not going this way. And the organization itself, like Zonic's out in interviews saying, the major is our focus. This is the one we want, right? Yes, you want the major. Every team wants that. Every player has that. But there was already a huge amount of pressure just on entering the major and wanting to try win it. But with Falcons, it's even more because the money being spent, the hate watching from the fans, or the anti-fans as it be, all the things that come in with being now on that Falcons team is that I feel like doesn't matter what mental coach you have, doesn't matter what support staff you have in the background, they are fumbling because this pressure is being put on them, even from a team that should maybe be protecting them from that pressure. They talk about Nico choking. I don't think he choked this major. I don't think he played specifically bad or was the one that threw anything away. Like, this came to the team not working because also I think players don't feel comfortable. This is just my feeling of what I'm looking at. But if you're Tessus and Kickstand, you're thinking, well, when could I be kicked and replaced by someone else? When's the next change going to come in? Because the golden three are safe, right? Nico, Kioski, and Manasi, not going to be touched. But the other two positions are up for grabs at the moment of who it could be. Like you mentioned earlier, Duncan, they're not going to be able to grab a Alexi or a Carrigan, but still there are players or IGLs that might have a bit better stats or might be highly talked about that could come in and replace it, or Nico goes to IGL. The Tessus rumors are already out that he might be going from the team. I don't think this is good mentality to go into before you're entering into a major every time, knowing that it's at the end, all that pressure being put onto you by the organizations. This is kind of rough. And we already had this with Magisk, right? He knew that major was going to be his last run. The information was already out there, and they bombed out completely. Obviously, Austin was a travesty. At least here they still made it to playoffs, which people might think is okay. But obviously when it is the Falcons, it's put on another higher level and another added level of pressure. And I think now the organization needs to fix up a little bit internally and try and take some of that away from them and focus on what works for these 5 players you have and how to put them in the best space possible, because most people had them making it to the finals, definitely beating Spirit, having a good run at this, Yeah. It was a common factor of this could be a good run for Falcons given what they were showing. Maybe they were struggling in the finals, but struggling at this point, this goes to show that this is not just the player side. Yes, they're the ones shooting in the server, but for me, I don't see another organization or team with that much pressure on their shoulders other than Falcons, and a lot of it comes from the org.
I didn't really factor in this aspect when really thinking about them, but
so I went on the full mental side, the vibes and everything in it, because this is a whole, this is things that stats can't show.
Yeah, of course. I feel like it obviously, for a guy that also feels so much internal pressure in Nico that is really just still fighting for his first major, it's just adding fuel to the fire. And he was good on the second map between him and Spirit, but the first one, I just was shaking my head at that one too. I was thinking, oh, it's happening again, isn't it? I don't know how you really alleviate that when everybody on Falcons has this singular objective to just win everything, because they all are aware that this is the most expensive project in Counter-Strike right now, that they have the highest of expectations in every single tournament, and anything but lifting a trophy is practically failure. I mean, it'd be kind of, I don't know how going away after this season. I mean, I think what Kicksan said, that they had higher aspirations this season, and they already even had grand final and deep finishes. So yeah, it's not like MOUZ, you know. MOUZ clearly want more, but like I think in some way don't always expect to get it all. Falcons want more, and they expect more. There's no question.
Isn't it fine for the players to think that, right, and have that, but then the organization shouldn't be then piling that extra pressure on top?
So what are the examples of this happening? Because I know they do, but like concretely have they really been?
Zonic said in an interview that like all of their focus was on the major, right? So like one of the losses, I don't know if it was maybe after Hong Kong, after they lost the final in Hong Kong. I'd have to check exactly which one it was, but his words was that it now is like all focused on the major. So this is just like a stepping stone. We've shown improvements. We're going there. Then obviously Lars and the organization itself are thinking we're trying to peak at the major. We can hear that constantly from these guys. Like they're the ones that made that term up when Lars was back on Vitality. So everything is positioned around the major, even from not the players, from the people who are on the support staff and that side. And I just wonder if maybe they could support them better with alleviating some of that, would help the players actually just only focus on what they need to do, Like, for me, that is a huge amount. It's a huge weight put on them, more than what's already there around a major. Because if they just had maybe the normal level of all the players, plus the fans shitting on them and going on them with a hate watching because of the cost of them, because of Falcons as an organization, maybe they can just handle that. But then if you could be on the chopping block because you're letting down the organization whose goal it is not only EWC to win that every time, but also to win the major for CS, like that is it. Like that is where all of their emphasis is put on. It wouldn't matter if they won the same amount of trophies as Fury did this year, and then they lost the major. That would still be a disappointment, right? And if you can take that away from the organization side, I think that might mentally help some of the players actually have a better look at it, because I don't think there's any other team that has as much pressure of could be a roster change, could be a kick incoming than them. Like they are at the highest of it, because it's a constant revolving door of so many players going in and out.
Okay, I think it's a fair point. I mean, I will say I'll do the reverse thing again. So on the whole angle of there's massive pressure on them. The problem is that's what happens when you have an org that has more money to spend than anyone else and demands that you win the championship. Like I always give the analogy for me, if you know football, is Falcons is Real Madrid, and they're not playing to like win La Liga. They want to win the Champions League because look, in football they've done it. But the point is they believe if you keep buying star players, if the star player doesn't work, you don't go, maybe my methods are wrong, you replace the star player. Oh, and by the way, I'll just throw this out there, Sonic. Real Madrid will fire the fuck out of a manager, homie. Like, I don't care. You can be a legend who's won the Champions League and they'll still fire your ass like 2 seasons later if you don't get it done. So that's another thing. Like, Zonic himself, by the way, I imagine is under a lot of pressure right now. If you notice, he is the only constant in the team with Lars since they formed it and they got all those players in originally. So I imagine I think they've already been very fair, given him 2 full years. They've given him finally the good roster this year. It's not going to go forever. Eventually, in the same way as they do look at Kicksan and they do look at, eventually they're going to look at him as well and they're going to go, is there someone else who we can also break up the bank and fight a few zeros and buy over here? Because that would be the next logical thing when you've already got on paper 3 of the best players in the world. Then I also think it's not that it's unfair to have that expectation. The joke would be if you ever actually do get over the hump and you start winning not only trophies but majors, suddenly that will be a massive positive because it will be the team you go to get paid the most money. It will be the team you go to that has 3-star players. It will be the best location. By the way, this is what Real Madrid is in football. Everyone wants to play for Real Madrid if they can, basically, because the dream is you can just hit the absolute heights and you can get a massive contract too. That's part of it. But you also get fired. You don't get to come second. You don't get to go, well, great job, but we almost got, no, you have to win. And so I will say this, if you're Zonic and the coaching staff, right? if you take on this project, and by the way, this is where a little bit of my sympathy does go away, is the Kiyosuke signing. Because when you made that signing, you knew that there could be some role conflicts in the team. You knew that that wasn't like a perfect, we're making like a Vitality team where every role... No, you knew that that was a big risk, and especially by kicking Magisk and keeping Tesses, you knew that Tesses himself was a massive question mark, and no one knew how he would perform. So you can't then at the end go like, well, what can I do about all this? So you got the most pressure possible, you've got a bunch of sort of like less than optimal situations, even though there are some excellent players in your team. At that point in time, you can't then just go, well, these are the players I've been given. You chose those players, mate. You chose to make it Kiyosuke, you chose to make it Magus that was kicked, you chose that Tessa stayed, etc. And then finally, I'll just throw this out there. There's more to coaching than just X's and O's and here's what you do between the games and in a timeout if we thought about aggressing on the banana. An element of coaching is called man management. So, you know, when these players choke, again, I said it earlier with Molodoy, I'm not pretending it's as simple as like, right, he needs an oil change. So if I just put this, yep, now he's not choking. No, but here's the thing. It is actually also your job to figure that out. Whether that's you, whether that's another person you bring. By the way, maybe Nico needs his own sports psychologist. Maybe Monesi needs someone specifically Russian that relates to him. I don't know what. The point is, I'm not in the team, mate, but it is literally your job to figure that out. And absolutely, when you have players that are having these problems repeatedly, you need the best system in that sense because you have to withstand the most pressure. Like one thing people actually don't give credit to people like Vitality for is, bro, you pick me the worst moment after Blast Bounty Season 1 this year, and guess what? The worst performance was 4th place. Mate, that tells me that Vitality is fucking battle-tested, mate. They have everything. Mm-hmm. That means on their worst day, when ZywOo has his worst performance ever and everything goes to shit and Apex calls terribly and he has a 0.7, even then, you can't get these motherfuckers out of the tournament in a quarterfinal. You just can't. And nobody can do it. So this is an area where if you have all that money, listen, mate, it doesn't solve problems instantly, but it certainly can get you a lot of fucking chances at solving a problem. So I think this is an area where they can't just ignore this and keep going, well, next time, you do have to address it. You have to figure it out. And if you've got that money, start spending it. Why don't you have the greatest coaching staff of all time where there's like 10 people in it and, you know, like there's like a one person for each player, or I don't know what the fuck you need. The point is, there's got to be more things we can try if you've got money. You know, there's a lot of teams I know out there that this is the whole problem. Like one thing I would never flame is when the Mongolz had Senzu when they were choking, they're not the fucking Falcons. They don't have like hundreds of millions of dollars. Like they have to make do with whatever they've got, mate. They're just fucking scratching and scraping and doing their best. So unfortunately, even though the pressure's enormous, it's justified though. And also, here's another thing, mate. If you dare as a Falcons player go, the pressure was getting to me. I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. Tell me how much salary you have, and we'll take 25% of it and give it back to Falcons. And I will tell everyone after every match you fail, he doesn't even make that much. He just makes like a normal salary in the scene. But if you're making like 50k a month, well, guess what, mate? That's not for fucking looking good in a white jersey with a bunch of fraudulent stars from EWC on it, is it, mate? And a FIFA World Cup. Like, that's actually supposed to be so that you win this major. That's supposed to be so there's real stars from CS on those jerseys. That's why you get 50k a month. There's people who are beating you who make 50k a year. Sort your shit out. Anyway, there we go. That's enough Falcons structure for that one. It's all good.
But I like what you're saying there around it, right? Obviously, they are paid incredibly well, but that's what I think there has to be something inside the organization that changes to help them deal with it.
There's a culture shift needed, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like right now, they have Lars. I saw another guy with them at this event, and I'm not discrediting them because they've had that success.
Of course.
But maybe they now need to review something because this is not the first failure. This has not been the first stumble. They're going round in circles right now in my eyes. And now they maybe need to look at, like what you said, that's a great example. Maybe Monesi does need his own psychologist. Maybe Nico needs it as well. Maybe they need to speak the same language. Or maybe they need to adapt better to what these players like. It's all up for them to try and figure out. But it can't go on like this because it feels like it's more intense, more worse for them than any other team. And I'm just looking from the backlines, right? I'm seeing stuff happen behind the camera, behind the screen, and it seems worse for them than any other team.
Right. Okay, Maui, what is your ugly point?
Okay, yeah, mine is about probably the least talked about quarterfinal team. I feel like this has been pretty frequently skipped amongst discussions in the major and what happened in it because, I mean, it's just hard to gauge. It's difficult to gauge the future of this team. And so my ugly point right now is the uncertainty regarding the future of the Mongolz. I find it to be rather disappointing that by now we aren't really sure what direction they're headed, whether they're going to bring Senzu back, because the rumblings I had heard following Senzu being benched were more, at first it was rather ominous, like he was apologizing for something, and then it seemed like, so people were skeptical, or some people were assuming that was because, oh, maybe he did something else, like the time when he was on the team with Bentet where he took his teammates' skins and then
KT or whatever they were called, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think has since been accounted. I actually don't take this as fact. I think it's been accounted for since then, since he did everything with the Mongols. But so people were thinking, is something like that happening again with him? But then everything I heard from the Mongolian scene was that it was just burnout, that he was tired of traveling or whatever, and so they decided to go for a last minute replacement in Control-Ez. And the only reason that they went for Control-Ez is because he was on the Huns instead of Chinggis Warriors, or no, vice versa. Vice versa. Or was it? Yeah, vice versa. So he just had to be on the team.
Because they couldn't take a Huns player because they'd already qualified to the major.
Exactly. So they needed to just get a player from the third best team, and then from my digging, because it didn't seem like, I even asked a Mongolian source on this, is there anything about why they went for Control-Ez? But when he didn't really see any interviews in Mongolian even, so my assumption is just that they could have gone with a couple players and they just went with Control-Ez because he actually played with Mara 6, or maybe actually it might have been 8 years ago. I think it was 8 years ago he played with Mara. So he just went with a guy that he trusted, and that was kind of similar in roles to what Senzu had done. And that was great and all, and he had a nice run through stage 3, but the playoffs clearly did not look good for him. The other tournaments that he played were just okay, and if they continue with him, I mean, Mongols are going to fall out of the top 5, if not the top 9 or 8. You know, I don't see a world where they maintain their position. I feel like they're kind of running on fumes right now, and maybe we're getting some little spikes in performance from Mizinho, which is great. Like, Mizinho might be the next best Mongolian player behind Senzu, but as it stands, I don't know who they're working with next year, and I trust Mara and Blitz to put together something that is going to be competitive, but it's just disappointing and ugly, because this went from a team that was in the grand finals of the major, took a map off of Vitality, and was consistently competing for top 4 positions, top 6 positions in the following season. In fact, even the season leading up to it in the Shanghai major, some people were thinking that the red hot form that they had from stage 3 was going to continue to the playoffs and maybe even propel them to a deeper run in Shanghai, although it didn't. It was still something that we were getting excited about. And simply put, this is not a roster that I'm that if it's Control-Ez, I'm not really going to ever think that they're a threat to win a tournament. And that's kind of what I care about. I want a team that is a threat to win a tournament. With Senzu on the right day, they're a threat to take down anybody, period. They can take down, they've taken down Vitality before. They've taken down they've lost a couple weird series here and there, but they're generally good to find those upsets, and even in big pressure moments, they can find those. So I'd want to see this team with the same 5 that they've had for the majority of the last couple years come back.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things, right, with the Mongols right now, where it was a band-aid they put on by getting Control-Ez in. Everything you said, I heard the same of like reason why and what made sense for them, because obviously that news came out from Mizinho that they were looking at JL, they were looking at Magix, like that. There were 2 options for him, which is kind of wild to think about it. They were literally scrambling. Control-Ez obviously fitted into the system, but he wasn't a hindrance in the group stage games, but he wasn't anything wow factor in playoffs. He wasn't anything magical like the Senzu would be. But now they've become a team where if they can't get Senzu back, then they need to look at this next young Mongolian player coming through. And we keep hearing there's so many of them. There's so many teams here with up-and-coming players. Well, it's about them trying to unlock it if they want to stay in that top spot, because they work so hard with this core to keep it going, and they've got a good system. But they won't have much time if they keep dropping down the rankings, like you said. And that's one thing I'm worried about. Like, if Senzu has got past his burnout and can come back in really quick, that's great. But if he needs more time, then that might also start put some down into the Mongolz organization and Blitz and Mara that we can't rely on him to come back. So we do need to focus on this rebuild. But it must be so strange if they don't really understand what's going on right now of like, who do we get? Where do we go? But I don't want to see them stick with controllers for the rest of this like next upcoming season. That's the biggest worry I have. And it's nothing bad against him. It's just I think it's limited what they'll be able to do if they keep him. I think they'll be just hard stuck in maybe a top 15 team.
Obviously, the usual disclaimer, Maui did pick their future is ugly, not bad. He didn't say Mongolz is bad, the future is bad, they can't possibly... The reason it's ugly, though, I agree, is, first of all, I'll do a similar thing to what you did there, because obviously the real problem with Mongolz is they blew balls the fuck out of us, because I'll tell you the order of how it went, guys. As Maui said, they already in the second season of 2024 started to get interesting. Suddenly they could make a playoffs here and there. Suddenly they were in the major playoffs. They just got rinsed, because at the time, as you saw in the first season this year, they had issues in playoffs. They had a little bit of chalk in them. ZywOo himself, by the way, had massive problems in playoffs. But at the end of the first season, actually just before the major, they look like they finally got over the hump. Then at the major, they make this run where they're able to go all the way through to the final. By the way, that major itself looked like it was going to be some FaZe bullshit. I think everyone was expecting FaZe to beat them in that one, but they got the win there. They went to the final. In the final, by the way, they absolutely flat out just outplayed Vitality on one of the maps on Mirage, their home map. Then they had like, even though the other maps were like 13-4, 13-5 or something, like those were way closer games than those scorelines. Looking, Inferno, they were getting into bomb sites, they were getting into 1vx's. Like, they actually had a really good showing for a team that had no business being in a final, but was almost at the level to be at that. And then after the major, look, I did that episode of Feed the Trolls for Steel. I just assumed, that's the peak, isn't it? Like, you overshot a little bit, now you're going to come back down. No, they actually then showcased a similar level. Like, if people don't forget, they had the fucking, I think it was Blast. No, which way around? Yeah, I think it was Blast they made the finals of and lost to Spirit. And in doing so, they beat Vitality. Yeah. Then at EWC, they beat Vitality again. So, by the way, now they're even beating Vitality. How many teams have beaten Vitality to be all three this year? There's not many. Then they go to the final of EWC, win the motherfucker. Then you forget they had the final after that at Fisher Playground, which was the first tournament where Fury was really good and won the tournament. And if you ever watched that final, they were like 2 OT losses in the final of a BO5 that's a full 5 maps. They actually could have won that title too. Yep. So you look at the second season was becoming one of the most exciting seasons I have ever seen for a team that doesn't on paper have like future Hall of Famers. Obviously they have 0 European players. Like, the idea you could have 5 Mongolians and do that. But then the worst thing is, if you would have asked not a fucking genie but a demon, like, what wish could you make that would ruin the team as hard as possible? Take out the best player, ZywOo. Not only the best player, the guy who on the T side is like the pivotal playmaking individual. And the worst thing is, he also looked like in this rise, he'd gotten over all the choking issues. Now he was just money in the bank, fragging out. And by the way, I can tell you right now, he would have had a very legit HLTV placing at the end of the year. I'm thinking like probably a top 10. He'd have probably crept in there just because of all the EVPs and all the times he was in the finals, etc. So the worst thing is, we'll never know what would have happened. Like, if you stop at that moment after Fisher Playground and you say to me, what happens at the major? I'd be like, you know what? Fuck it. There's even a dark horse chance they could be in the final again. And I thought that would be the thing that was impossible. You also saw, sadly, when ZywOo out of the lineup, how good he was. You saw how pivotal he was. Because the sad thing is, as you said about controllers, he wasn't even like top 3 on their list, bro. They had to go, they couldn't take anyone from Huns, who in theory is better than Shingas Warrior. They just had to go down the list till essentially someone was available who wasn't ineligible because of the major. So that meant the list was very, very short. And so in the light of that, I actually think he played as well as you can hope for. On the T side, he even fit the role. He just isn't ZywOo. He's just not a star player. He was actually all right for a player that's a rookie coming into like the real top team, etc. And in fact, you look at some of the games they did win before the playoffs, he was even having good performances sometimes, or he would sometimes be a pop-off player against other real top 10 ranked teams. So I think the biggest bummer for me is you go to that quarterfinals at this major. True, you've got Vitality. That's one of the hardest draws you can get. Controllers had 12 kills over 2 maps. Like, it couldn't have gone worse for them. And then also at the same time, by the way, that was probably ZywOo's best match at the major, and he just was on demon time, so you never had any hope. And so the saddest thing is, when I was halfway through that season, I saw so many ways this could have gone better at the end. And crucially, as we say for the future, look, maybe he can pull his Ontics and he can return, and it's just all, he's had his time off, he's cleared his head. The problem is, if he doesn't, then this team just becomes a team that, like, look, maybe now they can stay in the top 10 and they can do, you know, that coin flippy style where they win the odd game here, the odd game. But it's not going to be what that story was. That story was getting really exciting. And then, like, out of nowhere, we've done some fucking, like, I've subverted your expectations, like all these dickhead filmmakers in Hollywood. It's like, yeah, by making a shit film, mate, my expectations would be the ending to be fucking great, wouldn't it? So I think it's just a bummer. I think it's just a bummer all around. And it's a team I actually enjoyed. I kind of like pulled for them, you know.
Yeah. Massive fan favorite every arena we went to.
Yeah.
It literally turned into like, unless it was FaZe, it was just Mongolz the whole way. Everyone was rooting for him because it was that crazy underdog story, you know, coming from a country which is like smaller than the rest, you know, small player pool to get talent from and then actually shine and do things on a big stage with also the whole country supporting them. Like, it is beautiful in that sense. So I hope they can, but it is very ugly right now. I agree with you, Maui.
And because they lost Sensu, who was like the engine of the team, they lost their fucking aura. And the problem is you can't just buy aura. Well, actually, you can, because Aura Frames is sponsoring this particular episode. And obviously, if you were a fan of the Mongolz, look, there's not many good times coming down the pipe now. So get an Aura Frames. The brilliant thing is, it just works as a digital frame. You use a cloud. You can even preload it. So you can put all your favourite memories in there. You can have them making that Shanghai major playoffs. You can have that time that they beat G2. You can have them going, so it's like, oh, we win EWC. Yes! That's what Falcons Dreams are doing. They did it in real life. You can have that picture of that smile, that damn smile of Sensu. He never does like a full one, which is like some fucking anime hero shit. So anyway, you can do all that great stuff. You can even have Mara in there, the fucking father, the Mufasa of the team, as it were, in this scenario. You can do all that great shit. And the best thing is, it's super easy. Like, you can upload unlimited photos and video into it. That's right, you can actually have video on the frame. It comes with an awesome gift box. It's super easy from your phone all year long. You can just upload shit to this frame. It'll work. And, of course, you can get a savings if you purchase now. By the way, if you're someone who's missed Christmas, great little gift to give someone afterwards. No one's going to think of that. That's subverting your expectations. Like, oh, I didn't give me that good a Christmas gift. Yeah, I'm coming with the straight fire shit in January, homie. Exactly. I'm making changes now. I'm spirit, motherfucker. So, for the limited time only, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling carver mat frames by using promo code S&B at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code S&B. This deal is exclusive to our listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show and bring in the new year by mentioning us at checkout. Offer may vary by country. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, there is one last point on this show. And you know what? Isn't it fitting that the final point of this show sees me going crazy with my superstar performance as the goat of my shit in the way that ZywOo didn't? Because you know what? I don't hate that HLTV gave him the MVP. If you want to go on stats, if you want to look at how they got to the point in the final, he was actually very good. Even though I agree with people, I think maybe Rops actually was a little bit better in the semis too. He actually still had a great semi-final in general. He just had problems on the Mirage. I do think if you look at this tournament though, since when you win major MVP and you win a major, the first thing people are going to do, it's actually an appropriate conversation in my opinion, just like for Vitality, let's compare them with Strauss, they're the greatest team, blah, blah. You do it with the players. You go, right, ZywOo's got a major MVP, now he's just won another major. That's hardware, that matters. People care about that in your career. Let's have the convo. Does this make you the GOAT? Does it push you up a list? Does it put you past someone? The problem I have is, it's the finals performance. Here's the problem. That was a good to very good performance, but that's not the GOAT in the final. Like, that doesn't mean he can't be the GOAT. But when I saw that, it's like, I'm still waiting for this. I've seen 3 major finals now. I'll tell you very briefly. In the Game Elysium one, he just kind of woke up as it went on, and Game Elysium just wasn't capable of winning that match. Then you had the Blast Austin one against Mongolz. I just said he got murked on the first map. He had 0 T-side kills on Mirage. He sort of came alive a bit later on, but Messi was actually the star of that one. Apex was even fragging out. This one, I'm sorry, Messi was actually the best player in the whole fucking match. It was a full BO5, well, it was a 4-map BO5, and then Rops obviously like completely carried the last map entirely. So you go and you look, there were moments in this final that were kind of a bit whack from ZywOo, or there were moments where I even think actually in the Mirage game that Donk was pissed about in the semis. I actually think in that game he was kind of a bit underwhelming. I think Mirage is this guy's home map. He can cook with both rifle and AWP on that one. He just looked a little bit out of it sometimes. And so one of the problems I have is, If you're telling me he's the GOAT, if he himself believes he was the greatest, if I asked Apex, he'd tell me he's the GOAT, then show me it. Just show me it. That's all I want to see. I love to see the great performers play at their absolute peak. What people will never understand is this. I have never hated ZywOo. I hate the fuck out of some ZywOo stands, though. Tell you what, homie, because they have nothing to do. Newsflash, you have nothing to do with ZywOo. You just support him, wear his jersey and say he's the best. Like, I tell you what, one other thing I'll throw out there as well. Never had a conversation with ZywOo. I don't know the guy. So I don't even know. He's actually one of the rare people I can't talk to behind the scenes and go like, do you actually think you're the GOAT? Like, do you think you choked to that game? I don't even know. Is that something he cares about? Is he reflective in that sense? So, again, that's why I put it in ugly. It certainly wasn't bad. Look, it's still a very good performance. I think it's totally legit. Out of him and Rops, if you're going off stats, one of those two gets the MVP. You can give it to him. He is still ZywOo, by the way. He also, traditionally, I'll add this in there as well, people are going to be focusing more on him from the other team and trying to shut him down and avoid him and all that jazz. That's all true. But I just thought in this final, I think this has to be considered an ugly one. Because if you look back in history, people are going to see how dominant Vitality was. They only lost 2 maps in the whole tournament and 1 in the final. And then you're going to go and look, if you watch the games themselves, and you're going to go, was this the best ZywOo ever was in CS? Like, no, he was way better in other fucking tournaments. Like, he's had tournaments where he just carried from beginning to end and looked fucking flawless. So I think it was a bit of an ugly final, personally. Right, there you go. I'm in a fucking literal, like, battlefield with all landmines on it. Come and join me, boys. Tiptoe if you want. Dive right in, you choose. What we doing here? BanKs, what you think?
Well, I'll say this, right? For me, even with all the MVPs, even with now 3 majors and 3 major MVPs, he's still not the GOAT because he doesn't do what Simple does. I'm a Simple stan the whole way with it. And I'll just look at this, right? If I think back to every major that Simple played in, and obviously he only won 1 major, he was still one of the highest rated, if not the highest rated player. What he did and dominated on, I think it was every game in Stockholm. I need to go back and check, but every game he was top of the 3 games from quarters to semis, then grand final, and he was doing simple things that you remember, you take notice of. There's nothing wrong with ZywOo not having the best performance in there, but I do want to see, like what you say, is him take over some of that shit and have one of these monstrous things where he takes over the games. Yeah. And when he does do it, and when it's not at a major, it's kind of like, I'm not getting that major highlight from ZywOo that I'm wowed about. And the other thing is, I argued this back, was it when ZywOo won in 2019 over, was it 2019?
Yeah, first year.
I think, 2019 over Simple, right? I argued that, like, still, for me, the eye test would say that actually, no, Simple was the better player, but he didn't have the trophy cabinet for that, right? And then it changed, obviously, as he went into it. I have the same opinion now about Donk. This isn't discrediting how amazing ZywOo is as a player, but Donk, if I'm looking at individual skill and what he does, he is just a better all-round player. And he just doesn't have the major trophies. He doesn't have the major MVPs from this year, So that's going to hurt him, and he'll be second on the list. That's how HLTV do things. But I'm a big eye test person of what some players can do that other players cannot. And the rating does not always show that. It's the same way I look at sometimes support players. Some people go, a support player, unless he has a 0.99 or 1.0 rating, he's terrible. I can watch a support player have a 0.90, 0.88, but if I see him lock down a site on a crucial round, or he's holding his position, or he's throwing the perfect flash there, or he's supporting his teammate to do really well, then I'm going to give him all the credit and say he's actually great at it. And the numbers do tell a lie in Counter-Strike if you're not watching the game. And if you're not seeing the exact map and how it's done, that's a big factor that a lot of fans get lost in, because I think some of them just watch the game without looking at some of the smaller details. And there's nothing wrong about that. There's always going to be casual fans for our game. It's the same in any sport as well. It's very normal. But when you want to have this discussion of the greatest of all time, it is not just hardware and silverware, because we're talking about the great individual player of all time, and that is nothing to do with the team trophies afterwards. If you want to say ZywOo is the greatest team player of all time, sure, whatever, I can give you that. If you want to say that Vitality and Astralis are battling for greatest of all time, I'd argue right now that Vitality are better because of the way they've done it. And some people disagree with that. But when I'm looking at player for player, it goes for me still Simple, Donk, then ZywOo. ZywOo is not even the top 2. He's not there yet. And he would have to do some more craziness. He'd have to have a bit of ego. And I don't need him to talk shit. I don't need him to go out there and say, like, I'm going to do it. I want him to just show me in the server. Just show me in the server what you can do, as we have seen. But when it comes to getting your major, because honestly, I thought the MVP was going to go potentially to Rops. If it was just based on that grand final, it would be Mezzi. Mezzi was lights out greatest British player of all time by far. It's not even close anymore in any version. But I felt like this was Rops's MVP to have, like for me personally.
If you look at, I mean, so I feel like you guys covered a lot of those aspects really well. So I'm going to just pose this. I'm going to throw this out there as I've been peddling publicly my desire for Donk to win the #1 for HLTV's list this year. And I've already made mine. I already know who I think is the best of 2025 and 2024. It's Donk. So in a campaign to try to push him there, and if any HLTV staff members are listening to this, they love to cite the reason, because I read the articles about MVP if it's a tight race here or there. I don't really, every now and then they'll kind of just throw the kills per round win stat out there, but it's not usually needed to say this guy's better than this guy. They've really only used that maybe this year a couple times for Monacy MVPs, and they used it as the reason for ZywOo to get the MVP, that throughout the entirety of the tournament and including the playoffs, he had the highest kills per round win of anybody on his team. But if you look at just rating, which is how they wanted to use as a sole number to encompass output in the server, Rops was better in the semifinals, he was better in the grand finals in terms of rating, and then the kills, the playoff rating was the same for both of those guys. However, the total rating for the tournament, ZywOo was 0.01 better. Either way, okay, enough with it. I'm just gonna say, I just hope that they keep consistent logic for kills per round win.
Yes.
If kills per round win
Agreed.
is the new god metric, Donk absolutely fucks ZywOo this year. It's not even close either. Kills per round win, Donk is putting up a kills per round win like he did last year. That is just, it's higher than Prime Simple. It's higher than Prime Simple for kills per round win.
Wow.
I mean, he's got 1.25 kills per round win in 2025. ZywOo, on the other hand, is something like 1.03 for the year. Like, it's so, or 1.08. It's 1.0. It clears him by such a large metric that it's just not even funny. Like, so if that, I get the MVPs, I get all that, but I agree with you, James. I think that when I'm thinking individual awards, which is what I'd hope a 1 to 20 list is, there are certain people that I would say it's hard not to reward them, the Mezzies of the world, the Flamesies of the world, because they had so many tournaments where they performed extremely well throughout the biggest moments in the playoffs. But if I'm just going individual output to individual output and what I see in the server, Donk's doing a carry job that nobody really since Prime Simple had to do in 2018. I mean, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm perceiving. And the numbers back this shit up. Like, if you took 2018 Simple kills per round win, by the way, it's actually right in between this year's ZywOo and this year's Donk. It's at 1.16 for kills per round win. So I don't think there's, if they decide to go against the kills per round win metric, which is now the new top dog stat, then the logic is really inconsistent between awarding this MVP, which should have been a semifinals, grand finals, ROPS greater than ZywOo award. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that HLTV has an agenda. I don't think that there is even like any reason for them to have an agenda. I just would like for them to have, in the same year, in fact, in the same month of an award being handed out, consistent logic between world #1 and major MVP. I feel like that's not too much to ask, surely.
It's funny, right? Because a lot of the ZywOo fans will just be like, well, look at all the trophies he won. And I'm not neglecting that. That is amazing. The amount of trophies he won, he's taken part in all of it. The MVPs he won, it's incredible. That puts him in a complete league of his own that is incomparable, right? If that's the only way you're looking at it. But if you want to put like the old days, Thorin, you remember? There used to be these 1v1 games where the best players in 1.6 would go against each other. They'd win some, obviously, Q-Pad back in the time, the Q-Pad aim maps that were done at DreamHack, and people would actively go for that and choose that as the metric of who is the best player, you know? Now, we're not doing quite that much, but we can see it with our eyes, with what we're noticing of the skill and the difference between some players and other players. And that's just because we've got a phenom in donk that's out right now, you know? And they don't happen many times. We've got our simples, we've got our donks, we've got our ZywOos. They're all incredibly gifted. But it's like, at one point, people were saying Kyosuke was going to be like the next donk. No, that doesn't happen that quickly. Like, he's incredible, he's a good player, but he's not on that same pedigree. And if he just gets a bunch of MVPs and some trophies, that doesn't mean that he's in that same category as the ZywOos, donks, and simples of the world. And it's always going to be perception-based of what we're looking at. And it's probably very hard for HLTV to quantify and put into it. But from what you're saying now on these metrics, it sounds like it should actually lean more towards donk if we're using their own metrics against them and how they weight it. But then they'll probably just say, well, ZywOo had these MVPs and the trophies, so that's the difference. But then that's not best player in the world. That a best player is the individual person sat at that computer playing, showing me mechanically the things they do, how gifted they are, and what they do as aim, talent, mechanical skills, and going from there.